continued to evolve. For example, in 1972, the final section of the track was completely reconfigured to bypass the dangerous Maison Blanche kink. This included the addition of the Porsche curves and the revised Ford chicanes to slow the cars on the run from Anage corner to the start-finish line. These features remain today. One of the then traditional aspects of the race was the Le Mans start. Drivers would stand across to the track where the cars were parked, and then at the drop of the French tricolor, they ran to their car, climbed in, fired the engine, engaged first gear, and pulled away in a cloud of exhaust and burned rubber. Not surprisingly, this was discontinued for safety reasons, as drivers would either rush to buckle their seatbelts, they didn't even bother buckling them at all. Dan Gurney, who together with AJ Foyt won the 1967 race, famously recounted using his knees to steer his Ford GT Mark II on their opening lap at speeds well above 200 miles an hour whilst he fastened his seatbelt. Since 1971, Le Mans has reverted to the more traditional rolling start used throughout endurance racing today. Le Mans will ever be known as the proving ground for car manufacturers and a lifelong dream for drivers. It continues to rank as the pinnacle of endurance racing that inspires similar races to take shape around the world. Things like the 24 Hours of the Nürburgring, or the 24 Hours of Spa, or the Rolex 24 at Daytona. But there will only ever be one Le Mans. Experience Le Mans on iRacing. Team racing allows multiple iRacing members to team up and race together, just like in real-world endurance series. Teammates can share driving duties, spot for one another, or be a crew chief. Team racing is free both to join a team and to create one. Each teammate races on his or her own computer from wherever they want to. Your teammates can be anywhere in the world, and changing drivers mid-race is as easy as a click of a button. iRacing features team endurance events ranging from just a couple of hours to 24 hours in length. So, if you fancy taking part in an iRacing endurance race in the future, you can learn more about team racing on the teams page on the member website.
Sometimes racing comes down to a matter of margins. Sometimes those margins in endurance racing, they go larger and larger and larger to the point where we talk laps instead of talking seconds. But that certainly is not the case in the Neo Endurance Series. 4 hours down and just 20 and under left to go. It's in the hands of Movano at the moment and Freddie Evers at this stage, but more crucially than that, they are being pegged back in by Pure Racing Team LMP on an alternative strategy, but a strategy that is bringing results. 8.7 seconds, the gap between them. It's been certainly interesting as a slow burner for the LMP division, the LMP2s. In GT, Thrustmaster Movano currently hold the advantage over Hoysen-Pelkor Motorsports. There's been some slow laps from Niels Koch over the recent times. Arthur Lehoque has been putting in some perfect times to put Movano back in control of both divisions here in the series finale. I'm #Team Jake Sperry, but I'm not staying for the next 4 hours. Joining you for the next 4 hours of commentary, Alvin Neves and Justin Prince. Justin.
Thank you very much, Jake. and welcome to hours 4 through 8 of today's event. It's been an absolutely thriller to start off the first 4 hours as everyone settles into the rhythm. Alvin Neves, of course, joining us. Hugo Ruiz once again helping with the camera work and for directing for today. And as you can tell, a lot of people taking part in making sure things go well for today's broadcast. For your live timing and scoring, go to www.live.nero-endurance.com. And so far, it has been a pretty good rhythm in terms of the racing so far. Some pretty big gas being set up by Thrustmaster Movado Racing for both classes. Frederick Evers, as you have just heard, currently up to an about 11-second lead. But right now, things could get interesting with the GTE class, as Arthur Leddick right now leading over Niels Koch right now. About 3 seconds. Alternative strategies seen around the course so far here on this gigantic track here, Elvin.
It certainly is. There's many strategies that have been coming here from since the drop of the green flag. We even had some cars that decided to come in at the drop of the green flag to perhaps have some sort of strategy. But hey, there's a reason this race is 24 hours, so plenty of things could happen, and this is just a matter of just sticking to your own strategy, see how things go, and well, once we are down to 1 hour to go, we'll see what strategy is working and which one did not work.
On your screen, a battle starting to form up just at the edge of the top 10 for 9th spot. It is currently Dorio Riccardi right now trying to hold on for GTAPD right now. IRDK Endurance right on behind. Pardon me, that is for 11th and 12th spots on the official timing and scoring. As this battle is starting to form up, drivers trying to follow their slip screens throughout the entire track. And right now, one of the teams that have been trying to shake up those strategies has been IRDK. And that was a big-time gain, in fact, through the corners that time, as they are continuing to pick up speed, approaching in the last few bends towards the Mousseline Straight here on this circuit here at Le Mans. A lot of history here, and of course, a lot of good racing so far today as they head towards their final bends and down the big-time straightaway.
Coming here down the Mulsanne Straight, team that are also be trying to get as close as possible using that slipstream from Doriano Ricciuti. Let's see if they can close, but they will be dealing with some GTE traffic that will be right in front of them. I think it will not be a factor right here as they approach the first chicane, and I think they may even have some room going all the way to the second chicane.
Yes, they're going to definitely have a lot of room. In fact, we have somebody coming in to help give some context with what's going on the track, and that is Mark Warrington right now getting all set to join us here in the Race Spot TV booth. Mark now joins us here for today's coverage, of course, of the Neo Endurance Series for the 24 Hours of Le Mans. Mark, how are you feeling about how your team's doing today?
Just a little behind. The opening 2 hours, Matt Farrow did an unbelievably amazing job. First of all, qualifying us where he did, I think it was P16, and then we were up to, I think, P12 within the first few laps, and then a slowdown cost him. He had to drop back a bit, but yeah, he did an unbelievable opening 2 hours, and so he was all riding on the high, and then the car was running really, really well. I took over the car from him, and there was about 16 seconds of optionals, thought nothing about it. Did my first stint, again, the car's going really, really well, we're holding position. At the stop, 30 seconds of optionals, thought nothing about it. And then halfway through the 3rd hour, 4th hour, lost 2 seconds a lap out of nowhere. Couldn't understand where the time went until we pitted with 56 seconds of optionals. And it seems that consecutive laps of pounding the curve through the forward chicane just was damaging the right side of the bodywork. And it decided on one lap to just go, and so we had to take a 56-second optional repair. Fortunately, the pace is back, but that really sucks because it's going to cost us, well, quite a lot of track position. Other than that, 24 hours to go, well, race I should say, got to expect some damage.
Mark Warrington coming from Blue Flag Racing. Of course, that's the second team having issues involving the chicanes with a similar amount of damage. The first time, ended up with a blown engine for one of the prototypes right now. But how do you look to rebound as a team to try and get the best finish possible? Because there's still a long ways to go, just less than 20 hours to go on the clock.
Yeah, and that's the good thing. I mean, we were all talking about it on the radio. It's like, so is there actually damage? Is this placebo? Am I just driving slower? Is it netcode? And as soon as we got it fixed, Henry Smith, who's in the car now, said, "Yep, it's fine. We're back into the 353." So it was a call of take the repair now, lose a minute, because we've still got 20 hours to get those 2 seconds per lap back anyway. So we're aiming to get back into the top 15 easily. We're aiming for that first of all, I should say. And then there's no reason why we shouldn't keep trying to get the top 10. It's not going to be easy. This field is immensely talented, but if we're having issues, and as you've said, others have had issues, attrition's going to play its role. So that's what we're aiming for, just to keep being steady, not do anything stupid, and just race our race.
Very quickly, is there anyone you want to give a shout out to before we let you work with the rest of your team for the rest of this race?
And it's a strange one, but huge shout out to Sindre Setsaus, one of our old team members now with Radical, for his a brilliant performance and finish at the VLN today. Real world racing, but we keep following him anyway, and I think you can catch it on YouTube. But yeah, big shout out to Sindre. And to Patrick, our teammate, who can't be racing with us today because his goddamn Oculus Rift decided to die on him with 1 week to go.
Those pesky Oculus Rifts, that's for sure. Thank you very much for the time, Mark.
No problem. Thanks, Justin, and everyone. Take care.
You as well. And that was Mark Warmington coming from Blue Flag Racing. They're currently running in the 21st overall spot for the GTE class right now, and they're Ferrari. But of course, that just shows kind of the challenges you have in a long race, where you have to make sure you don't have mistakes, and if you do make a mistake or have that kind of damage where you will have optional repairs, when to take it so you don't fall off, of course, that time. Salvaging the minute for now, looking to make up the time as the night goes on.
And mistakes will happen. You know, it is a 24-hour race, so there's still plenty of time if you make a mistake to recover from them. We saw it on the formation lap. We had the big incident in the prototypes where one of the prototypes were having issues, and well, they ran into 3 of the prototypes. But you know, there's still plenty of racing here to go. Plenty of things can happen. So yeah, for Blue Flag Racing, for example, it is just one of those that, well, something happened. Now just put your head down, get the best job, get the best job you can do, and well, at the end of the day, the results will reflect that effort for sure.
Yeah, that is for sure. You're seeing battles developing on your screen right now. You're following on with Probatum Racing, who has been recovering since an issue right before the start of the race, where they had an issue during the pace lap. Now they're up to 19th in their spots right now. You see Sergio Guerrero right behind the wheel trying to approach the BAM Thrustmaster machine just a second back in what has been a strong effort to recover from their issues and having to serve a 1-lap penalty in the early goings of this event today for the Neo Endurance Series 24 Hours at Le Mans. Again, good recovery once again for this driver.
Good recovery for sure, and you know, there's still plenty of racing here to go. That for the number 16, they still can make this work. Right now running in what is P number 19 for the prototype class. They're only 2.2 seconds from car number 17 right now. So let's see, I think they have the possibility to try to leapfrog the car number 17, but it's just a matter of trying to get the strategy working. Just keep the head down and do not give up.
And of course, they're also on an alternate strategy as well after all of that, so something to watch for as well. They've been pitting usually with the GTEs for much of the race so far, as we actually have a couple cars down pit lane, in fact, and that is Acme Racing, Logico, Vortex Sim Racing with their LMP edition. Michel Castini right now in his machine, Chad Dalton in for Acme Racing, as they have actually been in there for Acme Racing a fairly long time according to our timing and scoring, already approaching 4 minutes, of course, having damage on that machine.
Yeah, it seems like they have some significant damage, but for car number 11, the Logical Vortex Sim Racing, they are out of the pits, 32.5 seconds, so it seems like just regular service, so they should be coming up on the track right now, and it should be no issues at all. Now coming here into Dunlop chicane, some bit of traffic, but it shouldn't be that much of a deal.
should be that much of a deal, as right now you see him just simply driving across the course and trying to set a good rhythm as he goes across the multiple chicanes, of course. Of course, you have the Dunlap curve and the Dunlap chicane amongst that, along with the S's, along with the Tetra Rouge, before you go to the Mousseline Straight, as you see them moving right down that said straightaway right now. Now, of course, if you have been following in, it has been a dominant run for the leader for that class today, and Frederick Evers and his team, Thrustmaster Movano Racing, and that number 33 entry were, for much of the day, it was Marcus Hamilton in the machine for the first 52 laps before they made the first driver change, as they have been just absolutely pulling away. 34 seconds is the gap right now over second spot for the class.
It is right now the two leading cars in the prototype class are the Thrustmaster Movano Racing. So both cars are 1-2 right now. At the moment, they look like they are pretty much on the same strategy. Although the number 34, it's only one lap behind when it comes to the strategy. So it'll be really interesting as we see this race. This race kind of develop right now in what is our number 5 right now of this race. How these strategies go and develop, because we've seen some teams come after 11 laps, and while most of the teams in the prototype class have been coming around 13 laps in the stint, we have seen some teams that have gone as far as 14 laps. So really interesting how the strategies have been panning out in this prototype class, and how the teams are making it work.
Yeah, that is for sure. Right now, you see their GTE entry still leading by 4 seconds. When we started off the hour, it was about 2.5 seconds over the Hunchfeld Core Motorsports machine with Neil Koch right behind the wheel. But Thrustmaster Movano Racing definitely holding a stranglehold on the field, but a lot can change, of course, here over the course of a 24-hour race in terms of what happens, of course. So you see Arthur Lithook right now trying to keep that run. Very consistent times that have been in the 3:50 range, 3 minutes and 50 second range, I should say, for the past 3 laps.
And for the number 69, they have been doing a fantastic job so far, but Heisenberg Core Motorsports, they have been closing that gap little by little here and there. Now we got the number 69 going into the second chicane down here at the Mulsanne Straight, but Niels Koch and that number 55 have been closing the gap. Right now the gap is just a bit over 4 seconds, so Arthur Lehook have been doing a good job trying to open that gap just a little bit. It seems like for the number 69, but perhaps they have a little bit of more straight line speed for this track, and I think where the car number 55, they are making the time on the turn. So watch for the number 55 once they come into the Porsche curve. Let's see if they can close the gap.
Yeah, we'll see if they can close the gap, but then you got to remember, they got traffic to deal with, of course. You see some of the LMP2s. Of course, we have 2 classes, I should say, running today. The Hondas with their prototypes, along with the Ferraris and the Fords for the GTE class. So you got traffic to worry about a little bit as well, which could end up helping a little bit for your leader for that class, of course, the number 69 machine, as right now trying to still stay in the rhythms. I want to discuss this, though, of course, as since the drop of the green flag, a lot of things, of course, have changed in terms of the track conditions. In fact, following along, of course, there are a couple teams that stream their team channels during these races. One of the teams that mentioned this was, I believe it was the Autobahn Motorsports team that mentioned that the front ends for the Hondas right now are starting to get pretty loose out there because of the rubber starting to be put down on the racetrack. And of course, we're just past 4 hours into the event. A lot can happen. You'll have a ton more rubber still to form up on the racetrack, of course.
And for sure, that is one of the things that all drivers have to deal in here, the changing conditions lap after lap. The track is not the same. We started the track on a relatively warm air temperature of 25 degrees, and I think from my lifetime in scoring, we are down to 20 degrees right now. So the air temperature has been cooling little by little. I suspect that the track will follow suit in a bit of time, but for now, that is something that all the drivers have to deal with. For 24 hours, the track will be changing constantly, and that is something that as you come into the car, especially if you are a new driver and haven't raced in this race yet, you will be driving on a track that is way different from what we are used to seeing when we do practice, for sure.
Yeah, that is for sure, as you see the action continue to form up right now, trying to work through some of the chicanes. That specific chicane was named the PlayStation chicane as a 2015, formerly the L'Arc chicane, as right now you see the shuffling around with the traffic being dealt with. Of course, one of the teams that were dominant early on was Pure Racing Team's LMP entry. And right now, Maximilian Benake right now is behind that machine's wheel in 6th spot. He led for much of the first hour before having some issues, losing some time from a spin through that pesky Ford chicane section. And now has continued, his team, I should say, has continued to stay just at the very edge of the top 5 after the first pit stops of the race. As he continues to try and close up time, he's still a far ways back, though, of the top 5 in the number 38 machine, holding on to that 5th spot right up in front of him.
Certainly, yes, and now on the top 5, we got the number 38, the MSP Phoenix Racing. They have been doing a good job so far, just trying to do their thing here and there, but the Pure Racing Team LMP, the number 7, which have been pretty much the whole season dominating, right now running in P number 6, trying to close that gap. And that's a really interesting, because we haven't seen the number 7 in this position throughout this season so far. We have been seeing them pretty much at the front of the field, but again, this race is 24 hours, so plenty of time to go.
Plenty of time to go, and that's a good time to mention your point standings battles right now. Pure Racing Team LMP is looking for the clean sweep of the season victories this year, coming up on top at Sebring, Road America, Motegi, Nuremberg, Spa, and now trying to get on top of Le Mans, as right now they need to finish in the top 12 in the class today to clinch the championship for this season of the Neo Endurance Series. Your senior point standings on your side. Remember, it is double the points for Le Mans. 2nd spot is Thrustmaster Movano Racing, as right now they are having 107 total points, just in front of Core Sim Racing's prototype squad, with Vendaval Sim Racing also in that top 5 with another one of the Thrustmaster Movano entries. For the Grand Touring cars, as they call it, with the GTEs. Right now, coming in today was Virtual Racing School's Codano Sim Sports 81 machine at the top of the point standings, as they need to finish in the top 17 to lock themselves into the standings, winning all but one race to this season. That was a race where they got 21 points at Sebring. They need to, of course, finish in the top 17. Pure Racing Team in 2nd. One of the rare entries, their number 88 machine, is in 3rd. Poinchfeld Core Motorsports in 4th, tied up with MSP Phoenix Racing in your top 5 for the point standings for that. So these drivers, of course, they can't just settle into cruise control. They got to make sure they get into the top marks they need to make sure they get and clinch the championship, with this being double the points today.
And for many of the teams in here today, especially for the top running teams in each of the class, the VRS, the Sinsport, and the Pure Racing Team, it's pretty much trying to lock up the championship. They got pretty healthy points margins towards 2nd place, so it is just a matter of trying to finish the race, make sure that they are not involved in any big incidents, and that should be pretty much championship done. But there is another race here, and that is what I call the race to the danger zone, which for this season is P number 12 for in each of the classes. And the main thing is trying to clinch that top 12 in each of the classes in here. That'll be really important, because that means if you are in the top 12 at the end of the championship, that'll means you get an automatic invite for next season, and that is the next race that we also have to keep an eye on here today.
Yeah, good point to bring that up. An important point with the standings you're seeing right now. A battle right now with the number 7 machine. Again, he's been moving up to the field. That was for actually the 5th spot. So that Pure Racing Team machine is moving and fast, zooming right on by the MSP Phoenix machine. You got to remember, though, there is the alternate strategies. The MSP Phoenix machine was one of those in the early going that have tried to do that strategy.
Certainly is now for Maximilian Benecchi. They did that pass pretty much no contest at all. Julian Gurnasso pretty much decided not to fight the position right now. There is no point. He knows that Max Benecchi he is fast. He is going right now. So now car number 7 comfortably in P number 7. Next car in front will be the car number 13 of Virtual Motorsports, but they are just 16 seconds ahead. So I think Maximilian Benecchi, he has the pace to go for P number 4. It's just a matter of just keep doing what you're doing and you will get there.
Yeah, the Maximilian Benecchi, of course, one of the top drivers right now today on the field, or on the track, I should say. Both the Maximilians known for their talent, that's for sure, of course. Trying to pull away and use the pole from the lap car from Ava's Sim Sport, and going to drive along the right side as they approach the turns and try and get through the Porsche curves. In fact, that is Indianapolis, pardon me, as my map's flipped upside down. As Maximilian Benecchi's just going to start pulling away. Lap traffic going to be used as a pick, and he's just going to drive off and try and sail on away. Already a 1.1 second gap as now they approach the Porsche curves on the track.
Coming here into the Porsche curves, and now this is where we're gonna see this Honda prototype really shine, as the big amounts of downforce that it produces. Pretty much you can take the next couple of corners here flat out as they come through the second part of the Porsche curves, as close to the wall as possible. Now here you lift just a little bit, trying to set up for this last portion of the Porsche curves. Try to go wide, but not as wide as possible, because you will get a slowdown penalty, and that is the last thing you want. Now coming here into the last portion of the circuit, that are sort of fortunate, but with some GTE traffic in front, you really have to take it easy, and also try to not take that much of a curve, because we have seen those curves deal some significant damage to many cars today.
Yeah, that is for sure. We have a penalty just given out to Paul Darling, a 15-second penalty for a black flag, causing collision on lap 67, turn 26. As that is going to be an interesting black flag to have to serve right now for Paul Darling and his team on the racetrack. So we're going to get you as much information about that as we can involving that situation, as the 7 car still tries to keep top 5 spot. Meanwhile, on your screen, an hour battle starting to form up with your GTEs on your screen. That is for 15th spot. That is another MXP Phoenix Racing entry. And Alexander Thebe right now trying to hold on in front of the Logico Vortex Sim Racing GTE. Very close battle forming up. That is at Ford and Ferrari. Gotta love those battles, that's for sure. Just a half second apart, but you can see that MSP Phoenix machine a little slightly faster down the straights to start off, but the tow right on behind for the Logical Vortex Sim Racing machine is closing that gap, and quickly.
Closing that gap as much as possible. Ford versus Ferrari, the battle that pretty much has brewed on the man since the 1960s, and now we have it up here today. Logical Vortex Sim Racing versus MSP Phoenix Racing, now coming here at the end of the Mulsanne straight. The MSP Phoenix Racing just a little bit of an advantage coming here into Mulsanne, into one of the heavy braking zones. Now let's see if the Logical at the number 54, they can get a good run here, and it seems like, yeah, they got a good exit there. They're still keeping close, but that number 83, my God, what a top speed they got at the moment. They've been pretty much a little bit of a not so good race right now, running in what is P number 15. I know that they can do a better job, but you know, this being 24-hour race, there's still plenty of time to go, and not so far behind the sister car to the number 83, the number 85, just 2.9 seconds behind.
Yeah, that is for sure. You're seeing the view of that car, 17th overall spot, Lucas Jastaj, pardon me for the mispronunciation, behind the wheel of that MXP Phoenix Racing entry and trying to close on in. He does have a prototype right out in front of him. Have to negotiate around, of course. Might actually use for some speed, of course, with the prototypes being faster, but that might disrupt that battle coming up here, because that is Dennis Gurgison from Virtual Motorsport. That is going to be right where that battle we just seen on screen was, and having to zoom on by. as he's going to just zoom on by with ease, working his way through the Porsche curves.
Coming through the Porsche curves, and they're going to be held just a little bit there by the number 83, and that is the last thing that the number 13 wants, because Maximilian Benecki and car number 7, they are coming fast, and pretty much this will help car number 7 into that quest of trying to close that gap to the number 13. So pretty sure if this keeps happening, just give it a couple more laps and we're gonna have the next battle here for what is P number 4 in your prototype class.
Yeah, these battles continue to form up. You might have seen a car in the pit lane. That is TNT Racing Gold serving that black flag given out. That is not of a factor, of course, as right now everyone trying to zoom on by. As you said, potential position battles could start forming up, but you also have to think as well, pit stops might start coming up as well, because it's been on average about every 40 to 50 minutes, some of these drivers, give or take, in that range for when they've been trying to go in. We've seen in some previous events where drivers try and stretch themselves to an extra stop for the end of the race for the final hour, but again, takes a long time to get there. But first, let's shift that away, because that position battle we're just discussing just heated back on up, because Logical Vortex Sim Racing just got on by, I believe, MXP Phoenix, and MSP Phoenix is going to use the pass to try and zoom on by on the right side. They go side by side, heading towards the first chicane to the Mousseline Straight, and it is a pass to keep the position. This is going to go right into the first chicane and hang back on by Logical Vortex Sim Racing. Just about had that 15th spot, but again, zooming on by MSP Phoenix, getting that position right on back.
MSP Phoenix Racing now both running in P number 15 and P number 16 right now, so perhaps it was a little bit of a slow, the number 54 going a little bit too wide coming into the Mulsanne Straight, so that is not something that you really want. You're gonna get a slow down penalty, and well, number 54 now paying the price for it. So now for both MSP Phoenix Racing cars, that now they just need to keep that pace going. Well, just right behind them, the number 7 of Maximilian Benecki, who is on a mission on its own as well.
Yeah, definitely on a mission, trying to gain time right now. You're seeing that cockpit view as two of the prototypes zoom on by. That is Maximilian Benecki, as you mentioned, for Pure Racing. He is currently working a little bit with Ava Simsport, who was one of the cars that were unfortunately involved in that pace lap incident that had to go with an alternative strategy. Benecki, though, still has to close a lot of time on Dennis Gurgison right now, who is in the 4th spot in his machine. So it's going to take a little bit of work and patience, and of course, strategy going to still come into play to have positions throughout this entire race, of course, with it being a very long endurance race.
Being a long endurance race, and well, we are I'm trying to follow here the car number 8 of the Radicals Online with Ultra Gurta, because this is lap number 13, and I think this is the maximum that we have seen these prototypes go in here today. And as they come out of the Porsche curves, I think they will be peeling in right here to come into the pit. So let's see here, they come into the pit entrance, and yep, coming into the pits, the car number 8.
And that is the Radicals Online side 6 sideways coming in to lead you in for one of the first pit stops here now for the prototypes, as he is looking to try and get some fuel, of course. Maybe get a driver change. That does take a little bit longer than changing the tires, but of course you got to think about how much time you might lose being on old tires. We'll see what their strategy is on the track right now. Currently, most of the drivers just zooming by the pit entry from what it's looking like right now. No driver change coming up here, just getting fuel. In fact, it is going to be a driver change, pardon me, as it's going to be Paul Ubenbrink coming in now for Radicals Online.
Coming in now for Radicals Online, Paul Embrick. So this will be a full service fuel and tires for car number 8. So now Paul Embrick, he has been one of the fastest drivers here in this Radicals Online, so expect him once he gets into the car to rally. Perhaps I'll try to put a bit of a challenge to those two Trustmaster Movano Racing LMPs that have been dominating this race so far.
Yeah, that is for sure right now, and it's going to take some time, of course, to see how that strategy develops. As you see the pit stop time clicking on your bottom corner of your screen, as he is currently the only driver other than a car getting repairs, of course, in Acme Racing, That is out. He is out with a 47.5. And the pit delta is going to be about a minute 19 seconds, in fact, as he comes back on the track, still in 7th spot. But still, there's still a bunch of drivers that might still have to come in across the racetrack, of course. Meanwhile, as everything continues to settle on down a little bit, got to talk about what is going on across what has been a very entertaining race so far across this field. Of course, we've talked about teams like Thrustmaster and Movado who have been dominant, but as well, hold on one second, break up my point, because Logical Vortex Sim Racing is in the 3-car battle, as I think that was Sim Racing DE zooming by for what was 16th spot.
And kind of sees number 54 losing positions here hand over fist, so definitely something is going on with that number 54 that they need to sort out. That's another position that they have lost on track now, running in P number 17. Definitely not the stint that they were not looking for. So now SimRC.de Crimson with Gianni Vecchio trying to get a look here on Lucas Jetson going into the second chicane, into the Michelin chicane, and I think that number 54 definitely perhaps it could be some damage here and there, so that is definitely what they were not looking for. But number 77 trying to close that gap to the number 85, and I think they may have a shot here coming at the end of the Mulsanne straight. Now let's see here as they come past the press here, they take a look on the left side, and let's see, it looks like the number 85 is not really gonna fight it, so that's another position there for the number 77.
And a good pass there. You got to remember too, though, SimREDE, both of their cars were some of the first drivers to come in for this event today for the GTE class. As you see that RaceBot TV logo on the back spoiler. But of course, they came in early on a different strategy of sorts with Samba Racing Team, as right now that SimRC.de Crimson machine tries to hang on to position, but it is still going to be a close battle from MSP Phoenix Racing to continue to hold on to where he is at on the racetrack. That is for sure. As we got a pit stop coming in now for one of their classmates, and it is Torque Freak Racing who have come in and will make a driver change, it looks like. It is Ronnie Nunez coming into the machine now for that number 61.
Another of the GTE cars are coming into the pits. Lap number 14 understand that is pretty much the maximum that we have seen these GTE cars trying to run on 1 cent of fuel here today. And something really interesting for these GTE cars, fuel and tires, they both happen at the same time, so there's really no point in trying to double or triple stint tires. Pretty much you come into the pits, do fuel and tires all at the same time, and we'll try to minimize those driver stops, because that is what is going to lose you time. But I guess the time has come for a driver stop. So now Ronnie Nunez coming in car number 61. Let's see what he can do.
Let's see what he can do indeed, and try and continue to gain as much time as possible on the racetrack. While that was going on, of course, we had Jake Hewlett come out of the pit lane as well in the same time span. Vanderbilt Sim Racing also made a change. We have more pit stops. Shiana Machimi Sim Racing has just entered the pit lane according to our live timing and scoring. And of course, you're probably seeing on your screen as Fleet Matreski is trying to bring it on in the 63 machine. As you said, everyone reaching their limit on the fuel on this big time racetrack. Everyone starting to drag themselves in. SimRC.de Iris also coming in.
Coming in into the pits also SimRC.de, and pretty much for this class, pretty much 14 laps has been the limit that we have been seeing today. I don't think we are going to see anybody here in the GTE class trying to stretch it as far as 15 laps. It may be too much of a risk, but hey, I've seen a lot of strategies here and there, so perhaps somebody that trying to push that alternate strategy, trying to go for 15 laps. We may see one here and there, who knows, but for now, it seems like 14 laps, it is the absolute limit. And car number, and well, speaking of limits and battle for position, car number 85 tried to keep as close as possible to the number 77 coming here into the first chicane. They both do a fantastic entry and exit here, but car number 85 keeping it close.
Definitely keeping it close, not wanting to lose that spot even more so, or gain track on the ground, I should say, on that position. As pit stops continuing to start forming up, everyone's starting to reach that limit. You keep on mentioning, of course, that 14 laps that we've seen all day long. But we are going to stick on this battle as this continues on. The closest battle on the racetrack. MSP Phoenix Racing trying to keep up through the chicane. And that time, just keeping about even, trying to hit the perfect cornering. They zoom by the trees as you see a beautiful landscape here with them on. As Mosang coming into the Mosang corner just about here and trying to get the perfect drag and trying to maybe look on the outside. A bit of a defensive line from SimRC DE Crimson. And again, at Vetico right now trying to hold on. They move through the corner and they'll zoom their way down towards Indianapolis as more drivers and multiple cars, I should say, are starting to move into that pit lane right now. Right through turns, right out of turn number 30. As you see them coming in. One of them is Pure Racing Team GTE Red. You're still going to keep up with that battle as we're seeing right now on your screen. As these are some of the top drivers currently in the trying to keep themselves up as high as they can in the top 15. You see them moving themselves through the Indianapolis corner now, approaching Arnage. As they have a tight turn, they have the prototype there that might affect this a little bit. Going to be a slight loss amount of time having to move to the outside. As now this is going to continue to form up as this race continues to go on. Entertaining battle, that's for sure, but you can see the lost amount of time from having to run on that outside line to have to move away from lap traffic right there for the number 85 machine.
Now coming more cars into the pits, and I suspect that both MXV Phoenix cars will be coming into the pits as well as they are in lap number 13. Well, actually, as a matter of fact, car number 83, this is lap number 15 of their stint, so they are pushing that 15 lap limit on their stint. Another car that are pushing that 15 lap limit in the stint, the number 88 VRS Coan de Sinsport. So there's a couple of cars here and there that are also doing 15 laps as the number 85 comes in, sorry, car number 83 comes into the pits.
Well, there is a lot of cars, of course, with similar paint schemes. Of course, MXP Phoenix Racing's GTE entries are no exception. As right now you can see a couple of them at the very least are coming down the pit lane. Logical Vortex Sim Racing also going to bring themselves in along with them. Try and keep the position battle alive in the pits. As we also have a couple of the alternate strategies coming in now for the prototypes. Also right on behind them, IRDK Endurance is coming in right on behind these three on your screen right about now. Cue from the left side of your screen. As they are one of the alternate strategy drivers, teams I should say, of course, for today's racing here for the Neo Endurance Series.
It's now watching here car number 54. It looks like he has most of the service done, so he's revving the engine and away he goes up his pit stop. Let's see what they are doing in relation to the MSP Phoenix, which they are also out pretty much very similar pit stops, but it looks like the Logical Vortex Sim Racing just a little bit slower, just by 4/10.
Just by 4/10. And still, though, it is still a decent amount of pit entry, pit exiting, I should say, decent runs so far. Logical Vortex Sim Racing coming out in 18th spot. And remember, this is an interesting amount of strategy. The prototype who went in the IRDK Endurance entry, he's in 10th spot overall last time he crossed the line. Now he comes out in 12th spot. He's out of the pit lane. You're seeing right now a lot of the drivers just zooming their way around the track. But we have a notable pit entry now in for the prototypes. It's Frederick Evers right now for Thrustmaster Nirvana Racing, their number 33 machine, coming in. Now coming in for fuel. We'll see if they go with the driver change here, of course, as Evers has been in the car since lap 53, as he has one of the top pit boxes here for this event.
It kind of seems a little bit strange because I have it here that it looks like they may have come into the pits a little while ago. I'm trying to see exactly what's going on here and trying to look at the lap times. And no, sorry, my bad. It was just me trying to look at something else. But yeah, now coming into the pits, and now Tommaso Carla coming for the in substitution of Frederick However, in the number 33, as the number 34 just goes by to do one more lap, trying to stretch that 13 lap limit here in the LMP2. So these two, the number 33 and the number 34, doing the race as the way they like it.
Also, somebody that tried to stretch it a little bit was Jeremy Boderkamp, pardon me, who is now coming in from Tommy Ostergaard. That is the VRS Verdana SimSport 88 machine for the GTEs, who is also coming out of the pit lane right now.
Number 88 now also coming into it. So it looks like pretty much got their service done as well here, as 35.2 seconds for Jeremy Boutaloop in the number 88 VRS Honda SimSport. It kind of seems like everything has been going as smooth as planned for many of these teams so far. It's just a matter, you know, this is the time that right now we are already past the jitters of the green flag, and you know, everybody being all bunched up. So now it's from hours 5, I'll say, all the way to hours maybe 21 perhaps. It's pretty much trying to get your strategy done, see where you want to be in, and just work the strategy, try to do the best you can.
Speaking of strategy, more cars coming in, by the way, including a notable one in 5th spot for the prototypes. That is the MSP Phoenix Racing entry of Julian Brudestow right now in the 38 coming in. He's not having a driver change coming in, and a few more coming in. Sim OK Esport following them into the pit lane, as well as Team Camaro with the number 24 of Simon Trendo right now behind the wheel of that machine. Tio Martin Esports also coming in with Pablo Lopez, also coming in as BAM Thrustmaster. So everyone's starting to come in for the standard strategy. A lot of pit parties. We've seen this as we were just having a switch over for the second part of today's broadcast. These drivers coming in, they of course have just reached their limit at about 15 minutes, give or take, for these prototypes.
They certainly, yeah, and now I'll also expect the number 26 and the number 4 to come into the pits as soon as they go by the pit entry, as well as they are approaching that limit as well. So it looks like the number 26 perhaps, they may have gone, no, they are into the pits as well, and so is the car, and so is the number 4 of Workiva Kinetic Racing. So pretty much reaching the limit here for the LMP2s. Now the question is which teams are coming in and also trying to change drivers, and are any of the teams in here trying to double stint tires as well?
Yeah, we'll see what they try and do here. Of course, you got to remember earlier on today, as we has been mentioned a few times, before today's event, the VRS GT iRacing Series took place at Sebring. That was a 3-hour event. A majority of the teams that compete in this series also compete with their GT3 entries in that series. So they are right now, some drivers currently getting some deep breaths right now, getting a rest before they probably jump into the cars. As right now you're seeing a battle starting to form up for 6th spot for the GTE class. That is SRN Motorsports, who has had a tiny bit of adventures today, trying to hold off Team Hochschild right now. Team Hochschild, of course, one of the stronger teams in this series, and for many different series, I should say, across the iRacing world.
They certainly have been the number 75 and the 78 trying to close that battle now, coming here into the Porsche curse. The number 75, it seems like they have been really comfortable, and this is one of the strengths of the 4GT here in this portion of the track, where downforce is really king in here, and the 4GT has plenty of it, which is kind of strange from GTE car, you know, because we usually associate GTE cars with a little bit more of mechanical grip per se, but this 4GT has been built more towards downforce. That's the number 78 coming into the pits.
Yeah, that's the alternate strategy. He's coming in again. That's going to be a betting word on how many times they use that phrase in the next 4 hours. But he is coming on in. He has stretched it out a little bit and has a different strategy, so to speak, with that team, I should say, as they'll come in. Going to, of course, take about a minute in total for the pit delta. Should still keep him in just outside the top 10 by the time he comes out on the racetrack. Of course, a lot of action everywhere across these kind of endurance races right now, and everyone trying to set up their rhythms. Let me ask you this. How difficult is it to try and keep a consistent strategy, so to speak, between team member to team member to make sure you hit your marks in terms of fuel and make sure you don't mess things up in terms of the rest of the way, as you're seeing potential battle and potential car navigation, I should say, with some of the prototypes.
Well, from past experience, I'll say that is one of the hardest things because not every driver can drive the car the same way. So trying to come to terms just before the drop of the green flag. That's what perhaps one of the most difficult things to try to do, because for many other drivers it could be easy. So for example, we have seen some drivers in here that they're able to do 14 laps and some drivers that are able to do 15 laps. And it is really difficult, you know. So for those that are able to do 15 laps, perhaps it's easier for them to try to modulate the throttle here and there, know when to start braking, know when to lift and coast. And there are some that for them that may be a little bit too difficult, and they just throttle brake, throttle brake, throttle brake, you know, no lifting and coasting. Is pretty much pedal to the metal anytime you can. So trying to get that done, and that is one of the difficult parts here, because you are trying to balance, trying to get as much speed as possible, but also trying to get that strategy working.
Yeah, speaking of pedal to the metal, a few different drivers trying to do exactly that. You see Pure Racing Team, they've been trying to move up back towards the lead and are zooming fast. It is about a 3-second lead right now for the number 33, or Dennis Gergerson's team. Maximilian Benecki still behind the wheel of his car as he's trying to close up the gap. Just 1.2 seconds, and he is closing up quickly. He gained a full 2/10, in fact, from the close chicane right there, trying to work his way through Arnage as he is zooming his way towards the Porsche curves and keeping up that speed. This has been an absolutely thrilling drive for him and his squad since there were a little slight struggles early going after falling out of the lead.
And here's something interesting from car number 13. I think they have been one of the perhaps the only team that have been able to stretch the fuel stint here all the way to 14 laps. So they should be coming into the pits at any moment now. Now coming here into the pit entry, it looks like, yeah, they're coming into the pits. And so really interesting that while most of and just a little bit wide there going off track, but that's not gonna be really much of a problem as they're coming into the pits. But that's something that we gotta keep an eye, because while most of the field has been able to do 13 laps, this is perhaps the only team that I have seen that have been able to push that stint all the way to 14 laps.
Yeah, that is for sure right now. You've seen right now, of course, lots of strategies, lots of them playing out. So many that your head's going to spin backwards, forwards, and upside down, and then some again. But that Pure Racing Team machine, it's coming and approaching that Thrustmaster Movano Racing 33, because he is close to 10th, coming towards the Mulsanne straight right now, trying to zoom as quick as he can, pedal to the metal, flooring it, as this has been closing and then some. Still a ways up the road right now is Tommaso Carlo right now behind his machine, but it has been a quick clicking off time more and more and more in the past lap, regardless of what you see with that lap interval in terms of the lap last time lap totals, as they continue to zoom on across this track. That is for sure. Someone also to take note, you're seeing them on your screen that has been working his way up through the grid a little bit, is this machine right here. So we're going to buy the GTEs, and that is Pio Martin Esports with Pablo Lopez. He's currently just inside the top 10 in 9th spot. He was in a close battle for a little bit, in fact, with Ava Simsport, before strategy, of course, came into play, of course. And so Lopez, a talented driver, zooming his way all across and trying to close up as much time as possible. Next car in front of him is the number 4 and Matej Murgasin right now on the circuit.
Now this has been really interesting, because for car number 3, Pio Martin Esports, they have been doing a good race so far. They were involved in an incident with car number 57, which pretty much has derailed most of the race for them so far. But this is one of those that you do not give up. And for now, for car number 3, as they complete just another lap and come here into Dunlop, it's been one of those races that you try to keep your head down, you try to do the best you can. There's still plenty of time to go, and well, as we close to the end of hour number 5, we still got 3 minutes to go to the end of hour number 5. Tell Martin Esports, they have been doing a good job so far. It's just a matter of trying to get that strategy done, and well, trying to follow here just a little bit of strategy. It looks like we got a battle here for P number 13 on track for the LMP class.
Yeah, right now this is getting interesting with the LMP ones, not the LMP ones before we get onto that hype train, that's for sure. So you're seeing that action on your screen, very close battling for 13th and 14th. That is, of course, on the back of that train, a SimRC.de machine. But this has been one of the closer ones going on track as well that have been keeping a slight eye on. That's Matenis Murgason and potential Capella right now behind the wheels of those two machines. Two teams we haven't talked about as much as I like to, I think, throughout today's broadcast, but having quiet days as they continue to try and continue to work their way through the Dunlap curves and the Dunlap chicane and moving their way now towards that Lucerne straight right now. That is the Tetra Rouge that they have just, pardon me, again, losing track of the time. And in fact, that is the Tetra Rouge of the S's, I should say. Track maps, they're hard to read sometimes, but still, half a second back. It's going to take a little bit of time and a little strategy to work himself back up there. It's going to come down to, as well, the Mulsanne straight and trying to make sure you don't mess up the chicanes, the two chicanes down the straights.
And that is very important, trying to get those chicanes, the entrance and the exit as best as you can, because this section here, this is all about top speed. And speaking about track maps, you know what? It could be worse. You got Mr. Le Mans, Jonathan Boutel, which we had a once, and we had here on the commentary booth, and we were at Spa-Francorchamps, and well, let's say that all the corner names he named them as the Le Mans corner. So it can be worse. So first of all, hi to Jonathan Boutel. I hope he is doing well. So, but now keeping a close eye on this battle for car number 4 and car number 21 as they go side by side here at the end of the Mulsanne straight, coming here under hard brake. Let's see for car number 4 and car number 21. Looks like car number 4 is not going to contest that battle, this position for now.
And a good pass going in there for Vincenzo Capella in the Team GT HPD entry, as they have the TNT Racing Gold entry right on in front of them. That can be used as a pick heading towards Indianapolis, as that TNT entry is just going to move out of the way, step himself out of the way to make sure he doesn't become a hazard, and zooms on by as they continue to zoom down towards Indianapolis. Why don't we go side by side, presented by Edward Design, and try and get some LMP1 hype built up for the fan base right now here for RaceSpot TV. They're back for more coverage of the Neo Endurance Series 24 Hours of Le Mans, presented by RaceSpot, in just a moment. And welcome back, everyone, to Race Spot TV's coverage of the Neo Endurance Series, live from the 24 Hours at Le Mans for double the points. Here for today's action, here on Race Spot TV. Once again, presented by Adward Design, helping with the graphics designs for our graphics package for today's broadcast. As we are now into hour number 5 here at this famous circuit here in beautiful France, as right now everyone's trying to settle in and get to the best rhythms they can here across this 24-hour circuit. I'm Justin Prince. Alongside me is Alvin Neves. As right now we have seen a lot of good action, some strategy coming together, and we have seen some strong runs from the number 7 specifically for the prototype side at the very least to try and close up the gaps. But just as we went to the side-by-side, I believe he might have went into the pits, and that shifted around things, of course, sending the Pure Racing Team LMP entry back to 4th after moving up to 2nd, and now puts the Thrustmaster Movano Racing entries 1-2 again for the class.
Coming 1-2, but now for car number 7 in the Pure Racing LMP, they got their eyes set up straight on car number 8, the Radicals Online, and this will be a really interesting battle because Paul Elbrink, we have seen him before. He is really fast in this car, but Maximilian Benecchi, it looks like this car, this team, this driver, they have been on a mission all season long. They have won the first 5 races, and I think this, trying to win this race, this will cap the perfect season, but it will be really hard because, well, for starters, they're gonna have to get past car number 8, and then once they get past that, well, trying to close that gap to the number 33 and the number 34, this will be really interesting, trying to follow the car number 7 throughout this whole race.
That is for sure right now, as it has been in a very close battle for sure to watch on your screen. That is for sure. You see some different drivers, of course, on different strategies. One of these, of course, being the GT entries from Sim RCDE, trying to stretch out the fuel an extra lap or for a little bit, as they have been really on sync with one specific team throughout this entire race in terms of strategy, and that strategy, of course, is lined up with the number 58, a Samba Racing Team, as that Samba Racing Team entry is 6 laps down, 20th right now. Sim RCDE's our entries in terms of their Iris entry is currently the 76 machine, currently sits 36 overall last time in terms of scoring. The 77 for Sim RCDE Crimson, of course, having the strongest run for them today so far. But of course, you gotta remember for next season as well, there is the strong possibility of the LMP1s, of course, entering as another class to go along with the LMP2s and the GTEs. Of course, this season starting off a few months ago for the Neo Endurance Series. And of course, that new car, the LMP1s, I should say, just being introduced to service in the past couple of weeks.
It certainly is, and you know, here to talk us more about the next season and all the possibilities with the inclusion of the LMP1. Well, we got one of the organizers here, so we got Mr. Neil Heckens here, and from Race Control. And you know, this is kind of weird because we usually chair race control duty. So for me, now being here, the commentator, and trying to get an interview going with Neil Heckens. So Neil, how's everything been going?
Hi, yeah, it's a bit weird indeed, but yeah, it's going well so far. There's been fairly quiet until now. We're 5 hours in, so so we're very happy with that, and we hope we'll have some clean racing for the remainder of the race.
Yeah, it certainly is, and you know, that is one of those things that as the race goes on, you know, it seems to be kind of calm, but you know, one of the big talking points, and I think you gotta copy this to the clipboard eventually, because everybody has been talking about where are the LMP1s.
Yeah, unfortunately they're not here today because our season already started well before the release of the LMP1 cars. But we will be using the LMP1 cars next season of Neo Endurance Series for sure, together with the HPD and the GTE cars.
Yeah, that is a good thing, I think, for a lot of fans that have been screaming for that because of the commercials every time RaceSpot TV has coverage of everything, it seems. But of course, this has been a very strong event so far. What is currently going through your head in race as part of race control, of course, as you're following along with this for the rest of the way? Because, of course, this is a long event. There is less than 19 hours to go, Neil, for the rest of this one. What is going through your mind for you and the rest of race control today?
Well, we just hope the drivers will battle out cleanly for the rest of the race. But no, we just need to stay awake, make sure that we don't miss any incident. And we need to be sure to stay objective for these final 19 hours of the season.
That is definitely a good thing to have, especially making sure everything's fair and balanced as well. With that, just one last question. Is there anyone else, anything you want to mention before we let you get going back to race control, or anyone you want to give a shout out to?
Yeah, I want to thank out everybody who helped out during this season, also especially this event. I mean, doing a 24-hour race for a team is already pretty tough, but as an organizer, but also as RaceSport, of course, there's a lot of logistics and scheduling going on. So I'd like to thank you as well. Yeah, I would like to thank all our competitors as well for the awesome season so far. Yeah, it has been another great season, and it's just amazing to see how far we have come in just 4 or 5 years with the resources we have. So yeah, that's an amazing ride.
Definitely has been an amazing ride. And will you be staying up for the full 24 hours? Let me ask that.
At first I planned to, but yeah, I've been sick last couple of days, so I don't think that's a good idea now. I will get some rest during the night for European times, and I'll be back tomorrow morning, and then until the end.
Thank you very much for the time. We'll let you get back up to race control. Neil Heckens joined us from Race Control for the Real Endurance Series. And it has definitely been a good event so far. You've been seen on your screen and on board along with this battle starting to form up a little bit. It's about a 3-second gap still for 11th spot for the GTEs, as Vecchio and Christian Hewitt right now are in their machine for Sim RCDE and Team Hoichveld right now, respectively. But this has been a battle that, of course, with Team Hoichveld on different strategy, has been still slowly but surely starting to close up a little bit and has stayed about even in terms of time.
It has been, and it's only a difference of 5 laps that this battle has been going on, but also right in front of this battle, we also got the number 75 at SRM Motorsports with Corey Davis, not that far ahead. So these three, this will be a really interesting battle because all three are on slightly different strategies, and this is where you start seeing how all the different strategies with the different cars, how everything starts working, and this, you know, it becomes really interesting as the race goes on, how all these strategies kind of all mix together and kind of see which one is the fastest.
Yeah, we're going to see if that continues to happen here. Of course, SRM Motorsports, as you mentioned, hanging on to that top 10 spot as everyone's just trying to work and keep themselves clean in different portions. Here's one example of that when you have interclass lap traffic to work on. Why don't we show, for example, MSP Phoenix Racing's 38 machine entry? He's in the 5th spot. But then you have John Alma right now in that mixture of trees with Autobahn Motorsports, who's in 16th, who's about a lap behind, 2 laps, I should say, behind after issues on the starting grid. Then you have Acme Racing, who came back on the track finally after having to serve a lot of time getting repairs that you also have. And then you also have that Vendavel Sim Racing White Machine that also adds a little bit more to the mix here as everyone's trying to use him as a slingshot around the track. So let me ask this, how difficult is it to try and deal with your own traffic, in terms of your class, I should say, that is lap traffic, that may or may not have some damage that is affecting them big time in terms of speed as well?
It can be really difficult at certain points of the track, because we are talking that lap traffic that perhaps may not be as slow as you, they may be just a little bit faster, so trying to keep that. And then you add to that, you know, when it comes to blue flags up in here in multi-class racing, it's really for advisory purposes only, so they have no obligation whatsoever to move out of the way. So you, as the faster driver, as being when it comes to track position, being ahead, trying to keep that patience, or perhaps, you know, if the car in front of you is faster but it may be a couple of laps down, perhaps use that to your advantage to try to save some fuel here and there.
Yes, that's for sure, and definitely want to save as many drops as you can to try and make sure you do have the best strategy possible, as you can see that on your screen. Someone we haven't talked about much in the past hour for sure has been Thrustmaster Movado Racing's GTE entry. The number 69 machine has been driving on his own for a while now with a 7.6 second lead right now over second spot, and yet still over Niels Koch and his squad right now. So it just shows the absolute dominance of somebody when they can just settle on in, dial themselves up on the racetrack, and just quietly keep the lead with no one really approaching, so to speak. And he's continuously been gaining more and more time on the rest of the field as this race has gone on.
And I was thinking here that the number 55 may have had a slight bit of an advantage there, but it seems like the number 69 has been opening that gap just a little bit. It's only 2 seconds since the last time we kept an eye on them, so it's been really interesting for car number 69 that they have been able to maintain that gap. But another thing that we will have to keep an eye on as the race goes on, they will have to switch drivers as well, so which will be the next drivers that will be coming into this race and how fast, how they compare to each other. Sometimes that could make a difference, the driver pairings, which driver you put when. We have seen in many races that could make a big difference at certain stages of the race.
Yeah, definitely can, to put in one of your top tier drivers compared to, say, putting in your, pardon me, one of your, say, Bronze Star drivers, so to speak, or something along those lines. But it's been some strong racing. You can see having to negotiate traffic. That, of course, will affect the intervals a little bit for Arthur Littlelord right now with the 69. In third spot, meanwhile, is another pure racing team GTE entry, the blue entry right now. That is Maximilian Winnig, who was also a part of the VRS GT iRacing Series event earlier on today. After having some technical issues in that event and having a strong run before then, he said at that time, until then, it was the best race ever for me. And right now, he's trying to continue that momentum and have the best race ever to help his team here in the NES for this final race of the season in third spot. He's in that third spot by a fairly large margin, that's for sure, in the 71.
And for car number 71, you know, this has been a great race so far there for Maximilian Winnig. Yes, they had a bit of an issue there on the VRS GT series, but you know, clean slate. This is another whole race, another series, and this is the last round, and you try to do the best that you can. Yes, it just because it is a different series doesn't mean that you are not gonna give 100%. These teams, they are always giving their 100% and then some. And for Maximilian Winnig, you know, right now running in P3, it may seem like just P3 may not be much, but there's plenty of race to go. And for Maximilian Winnig in car number 71, it's just a matter of, you know, trying to keep the car clean, trying to not be involved in any incidents. And right now running comfortably in P3, P4 right now, the number 81 VRS Coandas Simsport, which are the if I do remember correctly, they have also been on the VRS GT series as well. So for many of these teams, it's just trying to keep it clean, trying to stay consistent, and trying to do the best job possible.
Trying to do the best job possible right now, as this 81 and his teammates, of course, all day have been having some pretty good runs. That's for sure. His teammate in the 88 is currently in the top 5, just outside the top 5, I should say, right now for the class, as it is a fairly sizable gap between the next position for Jake Hewlett right now. Of course, approaching the pit window now, of course, on the track. Portabatum Racing, who has had the team's share of troubles for sure today, is the first of the prototypes coming in. He's, of course, due to penalties and that having to come in on a different strategy, 14.46.7 there. But it's usually been the indicator that I've noticed where you're probably within a couple laps from having to come in for fuel for much of the class, who again will be either going 14 or 15 laps depending on how much they try and stretch it and how well they do, compared to, say, drivers up front like Maximilian Benecke or Paul Ilbrink, who is still in the top 3, mind you.
This has been one of the big talking points when it comes to LMP2. Most of the teams here have been able to do 13 laps. Only one team that I have seen going to 14 laps in the prototype class, and that is the Virtual Motorsports in the number 13. So it's been really interesting. I think we are getting close to some of these teams trying coming into the pits and trying to follow one of them that maybe coming into the pits the next time coming back, and it will be the number 21. They are on lap number 13 of distance, so look for them to peel into the pits next time by.
Look for them to peel in the pits or try and stretch it for 2 laps, of course. Vast majority of the prototypes came in last time, lap 86. I mean, the stint number on my end for the live timing and scoring says lap number 86, so that is pretty much very close to being right to where the window needs to be for them. Of course, if you want to follow with the live timing and scoring, like us here in the broadcast booth, you can go to www.live.neo-endurance.com. A good way to keep track of the stats, and a good way to keep track of, say, the battle forming between Corey Davis still and Gianni Vecchio in Sim RCDE Crimson's machine. 28th and 29th overall is that battle in the GTEs.
Now this battle has been Gianni Vecchio closing the gap little by little, and it looks like this is gonna be another fantastic battle between Ferrari and Ford, but this is now SRM Motorsports and Sim RCDE Crimson as they go past that Rouge and going down into the Molson Straight. Gianni Vecchio trying to close that gap, but it looks like Corey Davis got a good exit there. It's gonna be almost impossible to try to close that gap at this portion of the Molson Straight. Look for Gianni Vecchio to try to outbrake just a little bit to try to close that gap just a little bit more.
That is for sure. Right now, you're looking at the screen right now. Vecchio maybe thought about trying to dive it in for a bonsai move. A little late braking, big time late braking, in fact, to close up the gap and makes the distance stick. So they stay fairly close. Just 3/10 back now is Vecchio. Will he try and do this heading into the big time chicane in Musang at the end of this straightaway? You see the pole moving towards the left side. Moving just out of the way goes SRN Motorsports Orange, and that easily gets the spot for Sim RCDE Crimson, as that is actually still with the chicane to go, mind you, as well. Usually takes a little bit more time than that to position that, but that time just shows the amount of speed he's carrying, and he is pulling away, in fact, from that SRN Motorsports Orange entry.
Pulling away, but now Corey Davis trying to use the number 33, the overall leader, to get a little bit of slipstream, so this may be a little bit of an advantage, but now the number 77 also slots back behind the number 33, so I think that advantage that the number 76 has been just neutralized as they go past Mulsanne. So number 77 gets that position and into the top 10.
And into the top 10, a happy place to be, especially to be in the top 10, that's for sure, as things continue to form up. Of course, the class leader for this event tonight so far has been Arthur Lohak right now in the Thrustmaster Movado Racing GTE 69 machine, as they have held the entire team a lockhold on this in this race today. As again, you see him on your screen, still a 6.6 second lead for him. Meanwhile, it's been pretty much the same case just about for the prototypes, as their 2 prototype entries are currently up at the front, 1-2 I believe still, with Tommaso Carlo right now behind the number 33 machine's steering wheel and trying to keep that distance and not make any mistakes, that is for sure. So he is still having his very strong run for sure from that team as a whole, as right now Gabor Mex is behind the 34 machine's wheel, of course, in the second spot still for that class. Just shows the absolute dominance from that team today, just absolutely holding a stranglehold still. What does that come down to? Driver skill, setup skill, team skill, or a mixture of all 3?
I think you gotta have a mixture of all 3 if you wanna be a successful team in here in the Neo Endurance Series. And for the number 33 and the number 34, you know, it has perhaps not the season that they were looking for in terms of race results. They wanted to go for race wins and try to go for the outright championship, but fortunately this has been pretty much the season of car number 7, which, speaking of car number 7, they are running in P number 4 right now, closing the gap to the number 8 Radicals Online, which, by the way, the number 8 should be coming into the pits next time by, as they are in lap number 13 of their stint. So let's keep an eye on Paul Elbrecht here as they go into the Porsche. There's some GTE traffic, but I think it's not gonna be that much of a problem as he should be coming into the pit. So not much of a hurry here, just trying to keep the car clean at every point here. Now coming here into the last portion of the track, they see, he is keeping the car on the right side and into the pit entry.
Coming right on in, right on cue, and perfectly timing it out with our friend Alvin, of course, knowing exactly what the strategy to expect there. And you see that Pure Racing machine staying out this time, going to try and stretch it out for possibly one more lap here at the very least, as Radicals Online coming in from the top 3. We'll see if they decide to do a driver swap, as I wouldn't be surprised if they don't do the swap quite on yet, as they'll try and get themselves fueled up and ready to go and try and get the best spot as they can. If they time this out the right way, they might still stick just in the top 5, as just one more noteworthiness right now in the 6th spot that might be able to still pass him if he has a good sequence of corners is Baslab behind the 13 machine wheel now.
Yeah, Baslov, and this is the team that they have been going in this 14-lap stint here in the LMP class. Perhaps the only car in the LMP class that have been trying to do 14 laps, and so far it's been really successful because they have been inside the top 5, top 10 right now, and they just leapfrog the car, the number 8 Radicals Online, as they come out of the pits. Now, something really interesting, because the number 7 Pure Racing team of Maximilian Benacki, they were closing that gap to the number 8. So now, with the number 7 still in the middle of the stint, now really interesting, how are they going to be able to manage to get the next couple of laps before they come into the pits and perhaps leapfrog the number 8 the next time they come into the pits.
Gonna have to see right now, things getting dialed on in. Why don't we go to race spot fan immersion for the next couple of moments and follow on with that Pure Racing team machine as he tries to continue his charge back up to the front. You're watching Race Spot TV and the Neo Endurance Series 24 Hours at Le Mans, presented by Race Spot. Welcome back, everyone, from Race Spot Fan Immersion. As you see, Maximilian Benecke still holding on to the third spot in the middle of his run at the moment. As you can see, still having some good speed. Of course, Pure Racing Team Red came away on top with the VRS event earlier today with the VRS GT iRacing series. So this team continues to try and have a strong day all the way into a strong night and into a strong morning all the way into Sunday. As right now, this team still continuing their strong try and surge through the front after having to clarify this, of course, with one of their team members before coming back with Patrick Wolf specifically. Their floor having issues. The floor of the car is what we mean, not like a hardwood floor. The floor in terms of the car itself, which helps affect the speed, especially there being, I think, some little holes that help with the aerodynamics of the car on that floor for the prototypes.
And that is one of the big things here that all the HPD drivers they have to think about, because yes, this is a 24-hour race and you want to go as hard as possible, but on the other hand, you also have to keep the car clean and also have to keep into consideration that the under tray of these cars, it is really fragile, to put it in a way, and you have to really be careful, because if you push it really too hard, it may not seem like much, but it all starts with just a little bit of loss of top speed, but then at the end that engine starts overheating little by little, and then next time you know it, the engine will expire and it will be race over.
Yeah, definitely will be race over if you may get too much damage, that is for sure. Battle on your screen starting to, and that battle, of course, involves iRDK Endurance as they try and close up for the 11th spot. Right now, they are currently behind the work of a kinetic racing machine. Matez Mergerson still behind the wheel of that machine. As you can see him working through the chicanes, trying to turn as much as he can and try to make sure this thing doesn't bob its way loose across the racetrack. This battle is still developing as this continues to go on.
Now we got a GTE car right in the middle, but not a problem there, as the number 72 stays as far to the right as he can, and the number 5 with Jacob Sandergaard trying to close the gap to the number 4 Workiva HPD right there, now coming here into the Forest SS. And that's it's been a really interesting race here for car number 5 as they're running in P12 right now. It always seems like they come in, they don't seem like a strong team itself, but then always at the end of the day they always end up coming with a good race result. So for them just running right now in P number 12, it may seem like a bit of a bad race, but plenty of time to go in here.
Plenty of time to go in here for sure. As you see this battle between these two prototypes still forming up. iRDK Endurance trying to get a slingshot, but he's got to work through these chicanes. It's going to go all the way to the Mulsanne corner. You can see Mergerson right now trying to keep up in front, as this has still capped on very close again for the 11th spot. 4/10 back right now. iRDK with Jacob Sodegaard right now behind the wheel, down to 3/10, trying to make it down to 2/10 as they go into the Michelin chicane. This is going to be a tight left, tight right. Try and get an airtight left, keeps it right on up to 3/10. So this could become the pass by the end of the corner if he keeps up the momentum. Got to keep that set momentum though to get into the proper way to pass. As you see that continuing to form on up, down to 2/10. Trying to bring it down to 1/10, but he's going to break a little bit early and try and get it in with a bit more of a sharper corner. He's going to keep onto the position for now for the work of a kinetic racing machine. But we have pit stops, multiple drivers coming down for their scheduled pit stops right now. As you see them starting to full right on in, it is the GTEs coming in. SimRCDE Iris involved with that. Teal Martin Esports and a prototype coming in. SimOK Esport coming in. We also have Team Camara and MXP Phoenix Racing's 38 machine entry all in. So a lot of drivers starting to bring them on in. A couple driver changes. Jack Keithley is coming in for Team Camara in the 24 machine right now. Also, I think a driver swap coming in for Teal Martin as well, with Alvaro Romero going to jump into the car. And those are the drivers pulling into the pits That is your first little giggle cards for the prototypes, meaning the rest of the field for that might be coming in the next couple laps, depending on what their strategy has been for the day.
Certainly, yes, it looks like that time for pit stops. The number 33 already came into the pits 1 lap ago, so look for the number 34 to come into the pits next time by as well, as he is in lap number 13. So trying to follow car number 34 right now as they are coming here into the Porsche curves and trying to keep the car planted as much as he can, trying to take as much as he can close to the wall, trying to get those curves. Now this part here really important, try to keep it as close as possible, but it won't really matter if you run wide and get a slow down penalty, because you'll be coming into the pits and well, you will be slowing down significantly. Not necessarily what these drivers want, but looks like the car in front is also coming into the pits as well.
Yes, the battles that we were just showing on your screen a few moments ago, well, that battle just ended because Workable Kinetic Racing decided to bring it on in, as well as Bam Thrustmaster also coming in, your leader for the prototypes, and Gabor Mex in the 34. So he is going to come right on in. Dennis Gorbelski in the Pure Racing Team GTA Red entry is also into the pits. Driver change coming up now for one of these teams right now, as you see them trying to all arrange themselves in the pits. That is Matt Farrell in Blue Flag Racing getting a swap in. Also, Evolution Racing is off and away from the pits, as right now it looks like another driver swap coming in for the 34. Yes, it is. It is going to be still Maxime Burrett right now coming in for the 34. And originally they were going to bring Torres into the machine, I believe. Decided to keep on Brennan in it, as Johan Burkakov right now is going to stay into his machine. Matt Farrell is coming out now for Blue Flag Racing as well. Just about everyone wrapping up stops. You have a couple of our GTEs also in the mix, so everyone just settling on in. This could get even more busier in the next lap or so.
Could be getting busy, but car number 34 just got in front of the number 72. That wasn't a battle for position itself, of course, but it always helps that when you are in the faster class that you can come in front of the slower class at the end of the pit cycle. It gets you some fresh, clean air as you go through the forest asses in here. Very important for these prototypes to get this cleaner, because they are really dependent on that downforce. So that'll definitely help the number 34 just a little bit, but now running in P2 is number 7, although he still owes us a pit stop. So these positions, they will be just changing pretty much all day long. So while we may be seeing a battle here for position, it may just be short-lived, as one of those cars will have to come into the pit. So it's really interesting how these pit strategies, how they kind of mix together, and they kind of provide these battles here and there. So sometimes it may be a battle on track, but sometimes it is just a battle against the clock.
Yeah, of course you got to remember, it's not laps clicking off, it's time and amount of time. Still 18 hours, 19 minutes, and 40 seconds exactly to go, as a couple of our GTEs have come on in. Mishimi Sim Racing coming out of the pits now. Gregory Tansen coming into the machine for the 85 machine for MSB Phoenix Racing. So that should ramp up a few more stops for that. Logical Vortex Sim Racing GTE also coming in. And I believe he actually stopped a slight touch short of the pit box. And just at least graphically, so this is going to be a driver swap. In fact, looks like it counts for being in the pit stop. Joel Giaz is going to come in. Now, full disclosure with Race's Spot, of course, one of our very honorable members in Randy Cheneth is a part of Team Chimera. They're expecting Jack Keithley and his entry for the prototypes right now, according to Team Intel from him, to be very wicked fast. So this might be where the team in 8th spot for the class decides to start moving themselves up more in the field under the guidance of Jack.
It will be really interesting how they can do, because they were also involved in that incident at the formation lap. So they have been racing with an A-League car pretty much from the start of the race, but it kind of shows the spirit of endurance racing to never give up. And now Jack Keithley inside that car doing the best possible that he can. It kind of seems like since the after that incident, they were able to come into the pit stop and fix some of the damage here and there. So they have been able to get the car to a competitive spot so that they can at least challenge for a better finishing position. Now, Jack Keithley inside that car, pretty sure he will do a great job, but now a really interesting part that comes in here as we approach almost 50 minutes to the end of our number 6. The drivers that will come in here, and this is something really important because we are on different time zones, everybody. So now you are approaching that part of the race that for many of the European drivers, for example, they may be starting to come close to midnight. So now you gotta start thinking of putting your drivers from the Americas time zones in, because they will be the fresher drivers and in their natural time zones.
Yeah, that is for sure. Meanwhile, from Randy himself saying, we just done a couple Ks on top speed, meaning I'm pretty sure that car is still running very fast, that is for sure. Meanwhile, we do have a battle forming up still. It is just outside the top 10, and this has been side-by-side racing for much of the course for this lap. This is Jim Racing Team with Torque Freak Racing, Jim Racing Team. Something we haven't talked about much at all. Miko Makillo right now trying to keep in front of Ronnie Nunez. And Ronnie Nunez is now trying to start to pull away a little bit to get himself to stay in the top 10. This was side-by-side racing for a good quarter of the cars out of the Mulsanne straight through Mulsanne, through Indianapolis, and eventually through Arnage back to single file, then back to double file to the Porsche curves. So now settling on and pulling away a little bit is Torque Freak Racing from a good run from them.
It certainly is, and it's been really interesting because right now it seems like a battle for the top 10, but they came into the pits just a couple of laps ago, and there's plenty of cars that here in the top 10 that will be coming into the pits in a lap or so. One of them being the number 55 Hoisingbold Core Motorsports, which right now are in the lead as a result of the number 69 being in the pits. But the car that will be next into the pits will be the 88 of the VRS Columbus Sanford. They are on lap number 15 of the stand, and this pretty much this GTE class has been divided on those teams that can go 14 laps, and well, the teams that can go 15 laps, and the number 88 seems like they can do 15 laps, and they should be coming into the pits next time by.
Should be for sure right now. Of course, you mentioned a couple drivers coming out of the pits now. The 83 entry for MSP Phoenix Racing is out. Dino Topic is now back in the machine for the 49 Motorsports entry. So everyone's still staying, just settling down a little bit really in terms of how you look things, in terms of intervals, but still that 96, he seems to be in a tendency right now to continue to battle on, just 4/10 back still for that battle we were talking about just moments ago with Ronnie Nunez, I believe. Still trying to keep it close and still trying to keep in the top 10. You see him trying to wheel that car around, trying to have smooth motions because you don't want to jerk the wheel around, so to speak, and then send your car around on a corner entry, especially with the amount of grip still being laid down on the track and the amount of rubber from the almost 6 hours of action.
And because of how these cars are built, you pretty much, the last thing you want is any of the wheels leaving the surface. You want the car to be as planted as possible, trying to use as much of the downforce as possible, because pretty much most of these cars are pretty much downforce dependent. Even the Ferrari 488, which is kind of like a GT car, it has so much downforce that it depends as well. That, you know, we are moving into this generation of GTE cars that are more downforce dependent than what they used to be back in perhaps 10-15 years ago. And that's, you know, it's really interesting that pretty much the only thing that it's differentiating these cars from perhaps the LMP2 cars, for example, is just not only the amount of downforce that they produce, but also the weight.
Yeah, definitely a lot of weight being produced, of course, and a lot of downforce, having to take advantage of that. Because you don't want to, of course, disrupt that with any damage as well, and make sure you maximize that as much as possible to try and keep things up. And you can see right now, trying to maximize any drag he can for the Jim Racing Team machine. You're seeing Miko Makillo right now still falling on the line, a bit wider that time through the start of some of these, start of the Porsche curves. But right now, trying to get any kind of time possible. Still 4/10 back. Just shows one tiny difference in one tiny wider line. How much time can be lost as they move their way down the straight towards the Ford chicanes, which is, of course, been known to cause a little bit of damage to these cars, and we have seen that damage being formed up for some of these cars as they head through the final section of chicanes and down towards that start and finish line.
Down start the start finishing to start one more lap here around the Circuit de la Sarf, and you know I have to say it is a really interesting track because it is hard permanent road circuit, and then you have perhaps what makes it really famous, which is the public section of the track, and now we are in the portion of the racetrack which is pretty much the permanent as they go by and start the transition towards the public section of the track.
Yeah, right now that is for sure. Meanwhile, we got a driver change going up for SRN Motorsports. Scott McGarvey is going to come into the car for them. Slop will still stay in the virtual motorsport machine for the prototypes, of course. Virtual motorsport, changing up their ideas in terms of their fuel decisions, I should say. Try not to say these certain words 27 times in a row for the next few minutes. But of course, this again, pit window starting to close up on in, and the racing continues to try and form up. As this is going on, Maximilian Beneke has moved into second once again in the number 7. He's just 7.2 seconds back now to the 33.
Running in second place right now, but he is coming to the end of the stint here as he is in lap number 13 as well. So he will be coming into the pits now. The question is, with the pace that he has been able to lay down so far, will he be able to come in front of car number 8?
Yeah, we're going to have to see if he can. That is for sure. That is Paul Ilbrink right now behind the machine for the number 8. Again, that is the driver to watch in terms of that strategy call, and that is Radicals Online, as you see on your screen. Able to move by a couple of the GTEs, including the Hoytfeld entry, and trying to zoom his way through the course to make sure he keeps things clean. As, by the way, Pure Racing Team, they're in the pits right now, in fact. Bring it right on down and moving underneath the Rolex Victory Lane arches. He's going to bring it on in. He has been in the car since lap number 70, as he is now on lap number 96 for this event. We'll see if he takes tires or if they decide to do the driver swap. Of course, Patrick Wolf, though, made it to 69 laps in the car before he was brought out. Maximilian Beneke will stop, and we'll see what they decide to do here.
And it kind of seems like Maximilian Beneke, it's gonna stay in that car. Now the question is tires or no tires. So far they're putting as much fuel as they need here in that number 7. So we also have to keep an eye on the number 8 because that is the one that we are following in terms of battle for position here with the number 7. So will be really interesting. And they are also changing all 4 tires. So now will be really interesting once this is done. Has Maximilian Beneke been able to do enough in his stint to leapfrog the number 8 for position on the track as they come out of the pits right now? Let's keep an eye here on car number 8, and it seems like so far so good. And car number 7, no, the number 8 was able to keep that position, but now they are closer than ever.
He says not so fast, zooming right on by just before they reach the Dunlap curve and the Dunlap chicane. So now we got a position battle on our hands, but this could be a short one, especially with Pure Racing Team on fresh tires. It does matter, of course, with the tires here, but there is a lapped car holding up Beneke right now. That was, I believe, one of the SRN entries. That is SRN Motorsports Orange. They had to work around for the split second as they'll move their way down the Moosang Straight, trying to get any drag he can towards that section and try and zoom his way down. Of course, zooming by the stores, the beautiful houses, trying to get a run. He's got only a couple tenths, 2 tenths back. Has to back off, does an early break, trail breaks a little bit. Tries to cut the corner to tie touch, not try and cut the corner to where it's a penalty. Still 2 tenths back. Now he'll try and get wind it up once again. And similar speeds right now compared to Ilbrink right now. In fact, they are dead even on the speed. There is that draft in the pole that we have talked about a couple times here in the past couple of hours. As Beneke's going to now try and get the run a little bit faster now. He's going to try and go a little bit later on the braking as the Radicals Online machine still hangs onto the spot, still 2/10 back. A little faster on the exits, of course, is Ilbrink right now, but it evens out by about midway through the straightaway. They do have lap traffic in front of them with 2 GTEs, and that might help out for the time being at the very least for that 3rd spot, as Ilbrink is going to keep the spot, but a very late trail break as a poor cone goes flying. Benecki still on the back door. They zoom by one of the VRS Codana entries. That's the 88 entry. As this battle is still keeping very close, not wanting to see him move away at all.
I think this is where we are seeing the number 7, the little damage on the under tray perhaps playing a big factor in here. And I think that is why they haven't been able to make that past 4th position down the Mulsanne straight and down to Indianapolis. But now we are going into the twisty bits of this track, and I think this is where Maximilian Benecki really has this car dialed down.
Yeah, this is where it seems he gains at least a couple tenths compared to Tomaso Carlo, that's for sure. Still following along with this battle, still 2/10 back, as right now it is still trying to time this out. It's going to take one little slip up on a quarter entry, I think, to try and time out this pass. They are just about even, in fact, in terms of how they're taking in the quarters, how they're dialing up on the gas. That time a little bit wider from Benecki trying to push the speed. That's going to cost him about a tenth, in fact. But again, not as good of an entry from Ilbrink there for Radicals, and he's just going to let him go on by.
Yeah, definitely. Number 8 just seeing the speed that the number 7 has, and perhaps he said, you know what, there's really no point in trying to fight for this position. He's going to get it eventually, so might as well just let him go by and see if I can keep up with him.
Yeah, right now it's going to take a little bit of time to try and time this up to close up back on up, as Benecki right now has already pulled out to about a full second ahead and is up and then some. Something is going on with the Radicals Online car after that exit, because he is now to 1.7 seconds back. What could have happened there? It was a little bit, not the tightest entry through the 4 chicanes, but that has been where a lot of damage has been forming up. Now he's losing time to that machine we're talking about, the Pure Racing Team car.
Yeah, really interesting. It was a really close battle, and it kind of seems like Paul Ilbrink just let him go by, but now this lead has been swelling now to almost 2 seconds, but kind of seems like things have stabilized for now so far, as Paul Ilbrink just closing that gap. Just underdraft, of course, it is over a second, so slipstream is not going to be a big factor right now, but you know, any advantage that you can, well, just take it.
You know why I think he let him by? Got this clarification from Finch Racing, one of the helpful people involved with the broadcast today. It was a slowdown penalty, pardon me, because you do have the risk of getting that if you turn in the corners or take it too wide a little bit, to have a slowdown penalty. That might explain it there to what happened after laying the car on by through the Dunlap curb and the Dunlap chicane if he turned in a touch too quickly. So bad luck for him, but he is still in the 4th spot. He's not going to cry about that, I don't think, too much quite yet. But we do have position battle. He's starting to form up with the 66, the 63, and the 83.
It certainly is now that, you know, those slowdown penalties, that is really the last thing that you want to be involved in. Well, we got this battle, this three-way battle is kind of short-lived as the number 66 comes into the pits.
Yep, just as we bring up that battle, he decides, you know what, I'm going to bring it on in, as that is Stefan Overgaard, who has been behind the wheel of that. Someone that is a notable name for various different series across the iRacing service and air broadcast that we see across the iRacing community. Very tight-knit community. Make sure you hug an iRacing administrator today. But of course, we'll see what they do here. They're going to go with the driver swap, as Stefan Kamaritz is going to come on in. You see now some of the drivers that are comparables in terms of strategy. Shiana Machimi Sim Racing, MSP Phoenix Racing, for example. That's one of their entries, the 83 entry to be specific, battling for 14th spot right now.
Battle for 14th spot, and what is your, well, if my computer wants to cooperate here, of course, battle for 14th in your GTE class with the MSP Phoenix and the Shinja Machimi Sim Racing. Just a little bit, just 0.3 of a second here as they go down the Mulsanne straight, and it looks like the number 63 really closing that gap, but the number 83 not giving up, staying here in the middle of the racetrack, and the number 63 decides to peel down to the left side and just prepare himself for the braking point as they come down the first chicane. Both of them get a good exit, so the number 63 trying to close that gap.
Trying to close that gap. You're seeing that on your screen. It was once, of course, a 3-car battle. Now down to 2 cars, obviously, as they move their way down the straight, the Mulsanne straight, and trying to get towards that final Mulsanne corner for that very long straightaway. That's the overall leader, meanwhile, zooming on by. Tommaso Carlo right now for Thrustmaster Movano Racing. And again, got me with that chicane once again. That is, again, the Michelin chicane, formerly, of course, the De Florentines chicane at one point here at the launch facility. As that actually closed it up a little bit. Horprop right now trying to hold on the MSP Phoenix racing machine. She had on Machini Sim Racing, keeping about the same pace, heading into that Mulsanne chicane, into the tight corner, and try and time this out towards another long straight towards Indianapolis. They're going to keep this about even for the time being, that's for sure, as these are 2 evenly matched cars on this track.
Even match for sure, and it looks like the number 63 was not able to get the exit that he was hoping for, and the advantage just went a little bit over 0.4, but now coming down to 0.3, but I think it's not going to be enough that he will be able to get a move here going down to Indianapolis, so perhaps trying to get better access here through Indianapolis and then through Arnage, and then try to see if he can get the overtake done before coming into the Porsche curves.
Yeah, we're going to have to see if they can do that. As you see, trying to get the overtake in the tight corner. That is Arnage right now. They're trying to work through. As now they'll work towards the Porsche curves. Trying to get the run. You see the lights going up with the gear shifts. Going up to the next gear. Collecting it off. Trying to clip those paddles and time it out. Will he go with the late brake? We'll see. Nope, they're just going to stay conservative as they go through the Porsche curves, as they have been wanting to, of course, keep this single file for many of the drivers, of course, because you don't want to definitely be on the outside line and lose a bit of time as they work their way through this set of curves and tight left, rights before they reach those 4 chicanes.
Now it looks like the number 63 just lost a little bit of ground there coming into the Porsche curve, so that will be the advantage for the number 83 to get just a little bit of a breathing room coming here into the 4 chicanes. That is pretty much all you need, just that little bit of breathing room. You know that if you make a little bit of a mistake, it may not be that much right now, given the gap that it is, as the 63, a little bit of a bubble coming out of the final 4 chicane.
Yep, a little bit of a bobble as this battle continues to heat on up. Of course, you got to remember the class leader still, and this should be noteworthy for sure. It is the 69 right now. That is the Thrustmaster Movano Racing GTE. Out of nowhere, I think, as this is closed on for much of this run, it's now just a less than a second lead over Pure Racing Team GTE Blue, if I'm looking at my timing and scoring correctly. Yes, it is. That is Maximilian Wenig, who has closed up the gap and could take the lead away and take away the stranglehold on both lead spots that Thrustmaster Movano has had for much of the way, as they have lap traffic of the 49 Motorsports machine right out in front of them. This is just about a 0.7 of a second gap.
Really interesting what the number 71 has been able to do right there in that Pure Racing Team GTE Blue, as the number 69 was struggling with the number 8, with the number 94 here coming into Ted Rouge, and that has allowed the number 71 to close that gap. So I think the number 71 is smelling blood.
Definitely smelling blood. It was the last time they both came in. Similar times, both in the 33-second range. So this has been absolute speed, definitely gained on upon. You've seen the intervals that right now the 69 is trying to hold on. Coming towards the first chicane, towards the PlayStation chicane. As this will be a tight right-handed curve. Can it be dived on in? They'll go single file. Gonna be patient, maybe timing out for the Michelin chicane out of the next corner, as this is still gonna be an hour-long straightaway to wind it on up. As you see right now, keeping track with the speeds as Winnick is actually faster, much faster down the straights, even with the toe. A full 7-8 kilometers an hour faster, evening on up finally by the straightaway. Faster acceleration from Winnick. Something must be going on a little bit with the 69, maybe trying to save things off, as this is going to be a close battle. Going to the Michelin chicane and entering towards the Mulsanne chicane at the end of the corner for 16 and 17. This is going to be an intense battle for the lead for the GTEs.
Definitely this battle intensifying as the number 71 keeps closing, and let's look if he gets a peek here to the left, but it looks like no, he will stay just behind the number 69 as they go through the Mulsanne corner, now coming here down the straight that will lead them into Indianapolis. Will the 71 be able to close that gap and try to get this lead in the GTE class?
And this is going to be very close, trying to go side by side, no, going to be patient, as they are approaching Indianapolis. Right on the back doorstep is Winnick for Pure Racing Team GTE. Trying to close up, and lots of blocking, of course, coming up from Havana Racing, trying to keep out in front. This is going into Indianapolis. Can they time this out properly? As this is going to be a very close battle. Last time this team, of course, pit in was very close. They are very close with strategy. This could be for the overall class league, regardless of the strategies. As they work their way through Arnage, as you've seen, a little lost time for Winnick on the exit, but he is closing in quickly. Faster acceleration down the straightaways. The overall leader, and Maxime Brennett right now, or second spot, pardon me, in the 34 zooms on by, as they'll have to go single file through the Porsche curves. And be patient. Gotta make sure you be patient and don't push it, or else you'll end up in the grass, as we mentioned a few moments ago with one of the previous battles in this section. Gotta still dial it on up out of the final chicanes, entering towards the Ford chicanes. Gotta make sure you don't get a cut corner penalty for sure in what is a close battle, as this is going to be late breaking a bit from Winnick through the Ford chicanes. Bobbing and weaving, a little bit of a more tighter entry coming in for the 69, but it's going to be still about a half a second lead for the class lead.
And for now, it looks like the number 69 has just won his battle for now, and he got the better exit coming out of the Ford chicane. So just a little bit of a gap that he was able to open, but 71, Maximilian Bennett closing that gap immediately and making it as close as possible, as this time there should be no traffic that they will have to deal with.
No traffic. That gives the green light, I think you could say, to entering one of these chicanes to go for the pass. As right now they try and move towards that Mulsanne straight and try and get a good run down the straightaway. Here we go, passing by the trees and passing by the homes, of course. This being where a lot of people live, of course, during their day-to-day lives. Trying to close on in, Winnick using a very strong toe to catch on up. They even up in terms of speed. Lennox right now trying to stay in front, and even 180 miles per hour right now. That is about 150 kilometers an hour entering this corner, as they are right at the doorstep. Pure Racing Team GTE, you're looking at the speeds right now on your speed tracker. He is faster on exit, but midway through the straightaway, they even themselves out, as this is still very close. I think Winnick is being very patient, not wanting to make the move too early. Maybe that's the thought process, of course. There's, of course, still less than 18 hours to go, mind you.
And I think right now Maximilian Bennett playing mind games because he knows that he is faster than the number 69, but perhaps he's trying just to stay behind, and this could be a good strategy because, yes, I think he could be able to overtake the number 69 if he wanted to. But I think right now, staying here and saving a little bit of fuel here and there, I think we will see this overtake come pit stop time.
Yes, we'll see. That might be exactly the strategy here. That is for sure when you think about it, of course. So this is going to continue to develop and is going to stay very close for a while. That is for sure. Just past the 18 hours to go mark, 17 hours, 53 minutes, and 20 seconds to go here in this 24-hour event. why don't we give ourselves a slight break for the time being? No, we will not, in fact, because Winnig is right on the back door. Had to back off, in fact, heading towards Indianapolis, as no brakes are safe, no water is safe, as that was almost the pass there right on the doorstep, almost got underneath just about, as Winnig is trying to apply the pressure for sure. Definitely stressful to see a very fast car right in your back mirror that is still putting up fast lap times. In fact, 3/10 faster, going for the pass, in fact. Here we go, Winnig right on by, lets them on by as they enter the Porsche curves. We have a new leader in the GTE class, and it is Pure Racing Team GTE Blue.
And I think the fuel saving is done for now. Maximilian Benning, he says, okay, I think I saved just enough fuel. Now I want to take that position in the number 6. And I says, well, you know what? Yes, you are faster. There's still plenty of time to go. Just have the position. Now it's my turn to save fuel.
Yeah, of course, a lot of people noting that would very likely, of course, be the thought process without being patient. But of course, you don't want to also let them pull away by doing the fuel strategy. Also apply pressure when using that free toe to get that fuel together. As so, of course, probably figured out, I think I have enough fuel for what I want to have right now, and try and match this up, or try and maybe stretch this out an extra lap. And now he's starting to pull right on away. He did, of course, have the faster lap on top of that, too. It was a 3 minutes, 49 seconds, 0.9 time compared to Lennox's time of 3 minutes, 50 seconds, 8.89 was that total time. So this might be a bit of training back and forth eventually, too, because if that same thought process of trying to save fuel a little bit comes in, they might stay neck and neck a little bit until the pit stops, but it's going to come down to, I think, that speed down the straight still.
It's going to come down as the sister team of the number 71 now going by really close there, but that shows you how the number 7 with Maximilian Benecchi, he is pushing really hard as well to try to close that gap to the 2 Trustmaster Milano in the LMP class. But you know, this battle here for your GTE class lead has been really, and you know, it's something that was building. That number 71 was able to close the gap. Now they are leading, but I think the number 69 trying to stay as close as possible, trying to do the same thought process, save a little bit of fuel here and there. So this will be a really interesting battle to follow all the way to the next round of pit stops.
All the way for sure. We got a penalty to let you know. It is for Blue Flag Racing. 30-second black flag from Matt Farrell. And it is involving a collision, according to race control, down a lap 91 down the straight. The long Mustang straight. So that adds to their bad luck for today. Meanwhile, Dustin Hickman trying to keep in the top 10 for the class. SRN Motorsports again with a great run. Jason Gerard going to also have that same strategy of saving fuel by using the toe right on behind. Of course, think about it this way. With NASCAR, of course, with drafting, you can save fuel, especially in the super speedways. If you're the lead car, you burn a bit more fuel. Possible stop process here, of course, with these cars right now, with some of these battles, especially for the GTEs, to pull the strategy cards out for sure, as Dustin Hickman still holds on to that 10th spot heading into the Ford chicanes.
And now here's the interesting part. Jason Gerard in the number 75, they just came around 4 laps ago, so they are on different strategies for sure. So now the question is, knowing that the number 77 will have to come in perhaps 3 to 4 laps, somewhere in that point, is the number 75 happy just to stay behind and save as much fuel as possible, or will they want to clear the number 77 and try to go just on pure pace?
Trying to see what they do here, of course, losing a bit of time on that exit, and now is falling back a little bit from that possible fuel saving strategy, so gonna take a little bit of time to wind that back on up. We're going to take a quick break here on Race Spot TV with some more Race Spot fan immersion. Why don't we jump on ahead and watch this battle unfold from the 11th spot right now for the GTEs for the moment, and see what happens as this unfolds. You're watching Race Spot TV for the Neo Endurance Series 24 Hours at Le Mans, presented by Race Spot. Welcome back, everyone, to Race Spot TV for more coverage of the Neo Endurance Series here for the 24 Hours at Le Mans, as this has been an entertaining one so far. Again, on this 8.47-mile circuit, still a long ways to go. 17 hours, 44 minutes, and 39 seconds. The clock of our lives continues to tick on across the speedway. Still, that battle we were still discussing is still keeping very close. I think right now, again, the strategy is more towards saving fuel and trying to stretch an extra lap compared to trying to battle for positions, as we are seeing that patiently taking place on your screen. Still approaching nearby that window in the next few minutes. So, what are your thoughts right now as we approach midway through 17 hours to go?
Oh, this has been pretty much, battles right now developing on the field, but it's pretty much about fuel saving strategies right now, because it may not seem like much right now, but if you can save some fuel here and there, that is where you're going to make the time in a race like this. And right now, the number 75 so far being patient, there's just staying behind, but we got another battle here on the field between the number 63 and the number 83, which is another great battle that we have been following as well so far, and a battle that has not let go for sure.
It seems like these MSP Phoenix Racing GTEs like to really battle and get on screen cameras. Jake Sperry is, of course, the endorser of Sperry Points, so they're getting a lot of that, that's for sure. But this is now another strategy where it might be fuel saving, or if they might have some aggressiveness decided here. Of course, that poor cone says, don't be aggressive with our poor cones. So, but still, keeping at about 3/10. This is the distance where a lot of these battles that are starting to really even out with the run, to make sure they all can stretch out an extra lap, because majority of the time the pit stop's been within 14 or 15 laps. Now I think maybe drivers are trying to stretch towards more 15, 16 at the very least. Correct me if I'm wrong there with that total, you think?
Well, it could be really hard to try to go for 16 laps for sure, but 14, 15, that is something that we have been seeing in the GTE class, so that is definitely something that is doable. So now the question is, for these two drivers, are they in the 14 or the 15 lap strategy for the fuel stint? And one thing to keep an eye on also as well, they are closing quickly on the number 67, so we may be seeing a 3-car battle here soon.
Could be soon. The reason why I said woo there for a split second is that Mark Torres just basically zoomed on by, and McKemmy Sim Racing's machine with Philippe Matrespi had to move a bit too sharply to the left than I thought should be for a split second. Able to still keep it close, though, able to make up the time through Indianapolis and Hernage, as they are still very close with that battle meanwhile. So that is something we will keep our eye on for sure for much of the way, and should stay pretty much like that for at least another lap as they work their way for the Porsche curves. By the way, if you've been keeping that last battle, which was part fuel strategy, part trying to pull away with Maximilian Winnig, is absolutely pulling away for sure up to 5.8 seconds for the class. But we have a battle with the prototypes. The 38, the 24, the 15. It's a 3-car battle that is developing up. Team Car Racing is right smack dab in the middle of that sandwich and trying to keep that back slice of bread for the bottom side of it for sure, trying to pull on away and try and keep up the balance for positions as they work their way through Indianapolis.
And the interesting thing here is that all three are on the same fuel strategy right now. They are on lap number 12 of their stint, so this is something that we may be seeing all the way to the next cycle of pit stop. But for now, the number 38 leading this battle. And well, those reports that we were getting of the number 24 being really fast right now with Jack Kinley, well, that may be paying off as well. He is keeping it close with the number 38. And here's another thing, number 13, he's only 2.6 seconds ahead, so that is another car that may soon be able to join this battle as well.
That is for sure right now, and looking at how this is going here. Each car spraying about a half a second apart from each other as they work through the Ford chicanes and towards that front straightaway on the racetrack. Of course, Keithley has gone from 8th spot all the way to 6th since the start of his stint, since the last pit stops. A couple cars did come in during the fan immersion that I want to discuss here. One of them is Mitchell de Jong, someone notable, of course. He was in the 4th spot right now for one of the VRS entries for Codano SimSport, as he is in the 81 machine for this one. He had a strong run, of course, earlier on today as well, and is notable across the iRacing community. A lot of people consider him Mitchell de God, so to speak, for sure, as he's trying to keep that 4th spot and trying to maybe close up a little bit to the 3rd spot, which is a little whiles up.
You know, for Mitchell de Jong, you know, he is one of the drivers here, and not only in iRacing but for the VRS Codano SimSport. He can pretty much do it all. He can go on the GT3 cars, he can do the GTEs. He is in the iRacing Grand Prix World Series, and he is one of the perhaps one of the best drivers here in what is the Rally Cross series as well. So, you know, he is the driver that pretty much can do it all.
Yes, he definitely is. That is for sure. Of course, was a champion, of course, with the GRC Lights in 2014. But we have a pit stop. It is the leader for the prototypes. Tommaso Carla is now in, and it looks like we have maybe a thought of a driver change for a split second. It looks like they're going to keep him in the car, as he is right now been dominant, pulling away from his teammate Maxime Brennett since the start of these pit stops, of course, for the cycle, with Maximo Beneke still in the 3rd spot. So he is going to come in, should be about on the average around 45 seconds for much of the way. In fact, he's going to go much quicker, in fact. No tires, I don't think. 31 seconds, 31.4 to be exact. Just over a minute in pit delta.
You know, it's been a great race there for the number 33 so far, but also Maximilian Benek in the number 7 right now running in P3, so that is the last step on the podium. So great recovery drive from them so far to be able to be running in what is P number 3 at the moment. And here's the interesting part: on the next time by, the number 34 should be coming in. So the number 34 and the 7, the gap is right now 7.5 seconds. I would say keep an eye on the number 7, because Maximilian Benecki has been lights out so far, and we may be seeing pretty much towards the end of this second part of the broadcast, the number 7 perhaps in P2.
By the way, that 3-car battle we talked about a few moments ago is still going on, as Jack Keithley has moved into the top 5 as we were discussing the prototype leader going on in. So he is trying to keep up his spots. He has a lap car, of course, to deal with. And the lap car, because of the area that he's reaching him in through the ports of chicanes, has closed the gap that he had gained off on MSP Phoenix Racing, but gains the gap right on back because of where they reach that machine in control by Daniel Topek. So that is going to lose ground for sure a little bit. But we have a pit stop for all 3 of them. That battle now made mute. Now it's a pit stop battle instead of a battle on the racing surface, as all 3 try and come in, try to make sure they don't bump into each other. Simotech Esport is one of those drivers, a part of that group, Team Camaro, as well, with MSP Phoenix Racing's 38 machine entry. We'll see what their strategies are for all 3 of them. That is for sure. Keep note, though, MSP Phoenix Racing with the 38 has had the same driver in Julian Grunesto since lap 53. This may be the time they do a driver change. In fact, I think a majority of them are considering it and doing exactly that. Julian Rubido is going to come in for Similk Esport as part of those driver swaps.
And just on cue, Julian Grunestel just came out of the car, and Patrick Schneider into the number 38, as Jack Keithley is gonna still be in that car. I think that is the right move for the number 24. He is the fast driver at the moment, but all 3 into the pits right now. Also, Tel Martin Esports are coming into the pits, and both the number 24 and the number 38 very close in that round of pit stops.
Very close. They were almost side by side out of the pit exit under the Rolex signs, as they are still going to be very close for the battle. They pulled away from the rest of the drivers they are battling with, of course involving the SimOK Esport machine from that. So this is going to be a close battle developing to get into the top 5 overall and for the prototypes.
Now, really interesting, both the number 24 and the number 38. It seems like they went for the no tire strategy in here, as the pit stop time were just under 33 seconds, while the number 15, the SimOK Esport with Julian Rivolo, just a 46.46. So definitely they changed tires. And also to keep a note on the number 3 of Theo Martin Esports, they also went for the no tire strategy, and that's how they were able to leapfrog the number 15.
See if they can make the spots stick. You may see them as 6th and 7th for now, but of course you got to remember Radicals Online is on a different strategy, so that is currently provisional P5 and 6 I'm referring to. That is Kazuki Iwashima, who is currently in the 5th spot based on how things are going strategy-wise. Of course, he had that driver swap with Paul Ibrink with these pit stops. A couple drivers also coming on in still across the track. One of those is the Thrustmaster Movano Racing 34 and Maxime Brennan, who is going to stay in the car. Logical, since of course he's been in the car since lap 93, too early for the driver swap in that case. So everyone just trying to dial themselves in, make sure they keep calm, stay collected, make sure you don't add Sperry points for the wrong reasons.
It certainly is. The number 34 now into the pits. It looks like it's going to be a full service in here, fuel and tires. Just a 47 second pit stop. So Maxime Bryan in the number 34 coming out on the pits. Now the question is the number 7. How will they be able to respond? Because we mentioned that the gap was around 17.5 seconds. So I think it will be interesting if the number 7 with Maximilian Benecki, the next time they come into the pits, I wouldn't be surprised if they go for no tires.
Wouldn't be surprised either, because of the time difference when you take tires and don't take tires. It is a favorable amount for sure. Of course, you see him right now in 3rd spot on your screen, as Maximilian Benecke is currently in 2nd spot for the time being, with the strategies going on across the track. 18 seconds back. Usually when everyone else goes in, he moves up to 2nd, then he comes in, slips back still, just to stay in about the top 5. So that is going to go back and forth for a little bit. Of course, go a long ways. The way to go here for this one, of course, Bas Slob is in the 4th spot right now in the 13 machine, as he right now has a fairly distance time that is about 7.5, 8 seconds, give or take, for the Virtual Motorsport machine. And his Honda is running fairly well, as right now still in the top 5 is that number 8. As we have a close battle going on, as Shiana Machini Sim Racing trying to battle with German SimRacing.de number 1. This has been very close. It fell back to as much as 0.8 of a second after the Dunlop chicane, as this is still staying very close. They have lap traffic, of course, to deal with here, but they are entering the Michelin chicane. Still going to be about a half second behind. Got to time this out the right way again and use that toe to close on up. That time on the exit, they closed up a 10th, in fact. Shiana Machini Sim Racing.
They closed at 10 for sure, but also we had to keep an eye on the number 83 of Jan-Erik Hofer, which were able to overtake the German SimRacing.de and open a little bit of a gap there, so they may be safe for now, but this battle definitely not over, and it kind of seems like they are essentially kind of on the same pit strategy, but I think the German SimRacing.de will be coming into the pits next time by.
Yeah, we'll see what happens there with that. But that is for sure. You're seeing that battle still form up on the racetrack. So this is going to be something that's going to take some time. Of course, they're helping each other a little bit with fuel mileage too. Think about that as well as they work their way towards those chicanes. Having folks walk through Indianapolis and Arnage running underneath that Audi Sport bridge. Audi Sport, of course, bringing you some LMP1 hype, which, of course, the LMP1 is very likely coming on for next season for the World Endurance Series. Of course, one of the top series in terms of endurance racing and road course racing and iRacing, that is for sure. Meanwhile, Torque Freak Racing is one of the drivers in by the teams in, I should say. as they bring in a driver swap for Ronnie Nunez, as David Berklow is now in. Also, one of the prototypes is worked by Kinetic Racing. That is Mark Torres, who is going to stay in, as well as Bam Thrustmaster, just keeping track of everything in terms of your pit strategies, as this still stays very close, working through the Porsche chicanes.
Now getting out of the Porsche chicanes, now let's keep an eye on GermanSimRacing.de, the number 57. I think they may be, the number 67. They may be peeling into the pits this time by. Let's see if they go for the 14 or 15 laps, and it looks like, yep, they're coming into the pit, so that will free the number 63 to close the gap on the 83.
And coming on in right on cue, again, keeps a lot of tension, so to speak, to try make sure if you're a team manager or teammates as well, to try and keep track of all this, because it just takes one miscalculation to throw things off your strategy for at least a couple of hours, regardless of the amount of time lost, because one mistake at 17 hours to go might still very much hurt you by 1 hour to go still.
That's certainly is. So now the number 63 being free to close that gap, but he won't have that much time, because I think next time by, this is lap number 14. If he cannot make it to 15 laps on this 10, well, he will be coming into the pits next time by as well.
Yep, we're going to see here as Oliver Kemstrat is right now behind the wheel of the 16th place overall driver for the GTEs right now in the 63. Pardon me, the 67, as I'm keeping track of the 63 on a separate screen, as he's still trying to zoom around the racetrack. Couple more drivers coming in right on behind him meanwhile, as the pit window is wide open and everyone's jumping on through. And it's going to be some of those prototypes along with a couple more of the GTEs. Bam Thrustmaster has been in there for a very long time, in fact. Might be something that happened with them, because for a split second on one screen I thought I seen a driver for a moment stop on the track, but thought I was seeing things. I'm wondering if that might have been it. Pardon me. We're going to check that out with what happened to his car. Now we're going to show the battle for 6 for the prototypes as this continues to go on. Team Camara and MSP Phoenix continue to duke it on out.
Looking it out for sure after that last cycle of pit stop, what was a 3-way battle for P number 6. It is now a 2-car battle, but Jack Keithley definitely being the man to beat in this battle, as Patrick Schneider trying to keep as close as possible, but really impressive drive there by the number 24, considering they had a little bit of damage at the beginning of the race, but they have been able to just push, and well, right now P number 6, and they still have plenty of time to go to make even more positions.
Playing more time and trying to make sure you don't make mistakes. A lot of these drivers probably too waiting patiently for them to have to pit, because remember, the pit window, some drivers are starting to really start to jump through that window as openly as they can. Still about a half-second difference between these two drivers. And I can confirm that that car I seen at the corner of my eye, I wasn't seeing things. That Bam Thrustmaster machine did in fact stop on the racetrack. It was lap 103 for him. He's back out on the racetrack finally, but a heck of a lost amount of time. Something must have happened technically for them to just decide to stop coming out of Mulsanne corner. That is for sure.
Yeah, definitely something that you really don't want to happen, but sometimes those technical issues perhaps may creep up here and there, but keeping a close eye here for this battle for P6 in the prototype, as they now have to contend with some GTE traffic, but Jack Keithley using it to their advantage right now as he goes past one and now tucks up just behind the number 67, and also tucks away as well. So clean getaway there for the number 24, as the number 38 also able to clear the GTE traffic.
Yeah, meanwhile, we got a new leader, in fact, with pit stops in that. Deutschfeld Core Motorsports with Niels Koch is now taking the lead. And it's a fairly distant lead right now by about 45 seconds. Of course, the alternative strategy coming up once again with that. Usually pitting about 10 minutes later, give or take, compared to the rest of the field. So he is right now on fuel conservation mode, I gotta think right now for sure. Not going to bring it on this time by. but he is leading with that. Meanwhile, of course, we have our fastest time coming in as well for Maximilian, as that is Maximilian, Beneke, who has now set a fastest lap for him of the race in the number 7, a 3 minutes and 31 seconds, .316 lap time, still 11 seconds back of the leader at the moment.
Definitely Max Beneke going absolutely all out, trying to close that gap. Yeah, it is a little bit of a different strategy here that the number 7 is right now, but he's trying all he can, as much as he can, trying to close those gaps to the number 34 and the number 33, although it is lap number 13, so that means he should be coming in next time by.
That should be coming in next time by. We'll see if he does go on next time by, as you see him zooming down the straightaways, trying to pick up more and more speed, and trying to keep up himself through the Porsche curves. And this is going to be about a couple seconds to see what he tries to do in terms of the fueling here. Of course, on the track, running about 215 in terms of kilometers an hour right now. Has lap traffic in front of him. We'll see what he decides to do. Zooms on by the traffic, coming towards turn number 30 where pit road entry is. And you caught it once again, Alvin. Coming right on into the pit lane and coming in probably for some more fuel, of course. And of course, this is just after he set his best lap time of the race too.
Yeah, so it will be really interesting if the Pure Racing team, the number 7, they go for tires or no tires, because they were able to set the fastest lap right there just at the end of the stint. So this gives me a clue that these tires, they still have some life in them. So now it is up to Maximilian Beneke in the number 7 if he's gonna be able to make these tires work as he comes into the pit. So we'll keep a close eye on him as he's putting all fuel, and once we go past that 33 second mark, let's see if they put the car on the jacks.
Yep, we'll see what he decides to do. Trying to get the times together, trying to get the time in the pit stops together. By the way, if you want to keep track of everything, you can keep track if you visit live.neo-endurance.com. Visit that website to keep track of all timing and scoring live as it goes. And to keep track of, say, if a driver takes no tires, which Maximilian just didn't take tires there for Pure Racing Team, and trying to keep as much time as he can. It's about 1 minute and 7 seconds back, of course, to Tomasello Carlo right now, but that still could be adjusted because he does have a slightly different strategy compared to rest of the prototypes for when he comes in. Now looking at a battle going on for the GTEs, as work of a Kinetic Racing and German SimRacing.de number 1 battling for a top 15 spot. They let on by one of the prototypes in the Honda zoom on by, but this is within about a tenth, back to 0.3 of a second. And this is going to be a patient driving again, working their way through Arnage and just trying to get the best times possible. Of course, the 67 did come in for a pit stop before, as we mentioned before, of course, battling with the 66 on the track and trying to get the best run they can and try and keep this calm.
Trying to keep calm and also keeping a close eye on some of the teams coming into the pits. Shenzhen Machine Sim Racing able to go 15 laps into this stint, so they were able to stretch it one more lap from what I predicted. So good job on the number 63 trying to go 15 laps. But it also looks like the number 80, like the number 83, the MSP Phoenix Racing, they also on lap number 15. So both strategies pretty similar, even though it is a battle for position. So this is one of those battles that pretty much it will come down to who has the better drivers.
We'll see who comes up with that and who has the better drivers over this time, of course. Of course, these teams having very deep rosters, of course, some of them competing, as mentioned a few times over in the VRS GT iRacing Series event earlier on today, and some very talented names for sure as part of the Neo Endurance Series as they zoom by pit lane. The 63, as you said, came on in. 83 keeping track as he is still down the Mulsanne straight right now, in fact. So a bit of time for them underneath the Dunlop sign right there. You see the big tires right there. And also a big time tire provider, of course, in auto sports for sure. Now waiting for an interview with us, coming from Radicals Online, who has had a very strong run for that team, is Paul Ubrink, who's going to join us into the RaceSpot TV booth right now. Paul joins us here for the 24 Hours of Le Mans for the Neo Endurance Series. Paul, how are you feeling after your stints for Radicals Online, and how you've been doing for your team today?
Feeling pretty good. It was a bit of a shame that Carl, in one of his first stints, had a contact with the wall, which forced us to do 30 seconds of repairs. But after we took those, car seems to be like back in working order, and it's pretty fast, so feeling quite confident that we can get a good result today.
Yeah, your team has been looking very good today, that is for sure. You mentioned, of course, having to get damage repaired. How tough is it to try and maintain position and try and maintain pace while making sure you hit the mark you want to for the amount of fuel in the car, so you don't end up overdriving it, so to speak, and end up, say, coming up a lap shorter on fuel than expected?
I think we're like pretty close on fuel. Like incidents like that show that like there's no real need to like save a lap of fuel per se, because like in the end it's not gonna matter that much, I think. So we just do our best, do 13 lap stints, don't try to stretch out to 14 laps, because like I think unless you're like really good at fuel saving and still be quick, I think it's a bit of a waste of time, and you probably lose as much saving as it will cost you in doing an extra stop at the end. But I think we're good, so we just try to push it and control the car, also on the older tires. But I think the setup is quite good, and the car is quite safe, either on full fuel and new tires, or also on old tires in the second stint. So I'm confident that we'll manage to keep it going.
And of course, curling up behind the wheel right now is Kazaki Ueshima right now. How is he doing, in your opinion, right now, coming in after you finished up your stint? How do you feel about his abilities right now and how he's doing on that racetrack right now?
Well, we all know that Kazuki is like a really quick driver in the World Championship Series F1. He shows it every time, and he's quick in other cars as well, as we've seen at Sebring and other events. But yeah, he's doing well. I guess it's like what you expected the first stint. His lap times are really quick. It's just like morning, he just woke up, so I'm sure he'll get even quicker over the second stint and the further stints he'll do tonight.
Yep, waking up, making sure you don't end up falling back asleep for sure. But again, one last question, of course. Do you have anyone you want to give a shout out to before we let you get back to your team, or anything you want to say before you go back to your team, of course, for Radicals Online?
I want to thank everybody on the team and our sponsors, Six Sideways Racing, Joe Real Timing, SO Sim Race, Arma Centrum, and everybody else that supports the team, and my teammates, of course. But hopefully we'll get some rest as well, Carl and Will, and hopefully they'll relieve us a bit later tonight so we can catch some sleep as well.
Yep, a long night ahead of you and the rest of your team. Good luck with the rest of your night. Thank you very much for the time, Paul.
Okay.
That was Paul Ubrink coming from Radicals Online. His team has been having a very strong run, currently in 4th spot for the prototypes. A couple drivers coming on in, but this battle you're seeing on your screen has spread out since it started being shown here for 15th spot, as German Sim Racing has fallen now to 1.2 seconds back for the position here on the racetrack. By the way, that car that's in is Logical Vortex Sim Racing, if you want to, of course, if you want to know if you're your favorite team.
Yes, but also following a great battle here for P number 5 in your prototype class between the number 24 and the number 13, as Jack Keithley also able to overtake the number 13 as well. So that is another position that the number 24 has they have made. So now they are in the top 5.
In the top 5, and they are trying to battle for this spot right now, as this is going to be very close. Look in the backdrop too. That is 7th and 8th spots too. That has a simrc.de machine right between them too. That is going to be now going side by side as the MSP Phoenix Racing Machine has to go back to single file as they head back into Indianapolis with the lap car in front of them. Have to stay conservative, make sure you don't run into the lap car, obviously, and try and make sure you keep things very clean. Have avoidable contact, of course. That's Teo Martin Esports competing off with them. They zoom on by the lap car for 7th and 8th spots. Steel Martin Esports has been having a very strong run as well in the top 10. But of course, it's that battle for the 5th spot right now. Jack Keithley and Bas Slob right now are still competing right now. And that involves that virtual motorsport machine that he's dropping a little bit back through the Porsche curbs for the time being. But he's had a very strong run, Bas Slob, somebody that, of course, is a good driver in his own merits as well in the various series when he competes here on iRacing.
Definitely a good driver, but Jack Keithley right now is on a mission right now on this battle. He is on right now in P5. You know, I gotta say, even with a little bit of damage that they got, you know, still there, they're doing a good job. And this race pretty much just there's still a long way to go. Over 17 hours of racing to go in here. So look for the number 24 to keep pushing, and perhaps I think they will come a point that perhaps we can see them even battling for P4 right there with the Radicals Online number 8.
Yeah, we could see that for sure, as that Radicals Online number 8 is a bit up the road for now, but just one thing with pit strategy that could close right up in about an hour or so, give or take. Just takes that much amount of time to really wind things together, of course. We like to remind you, of course, that right now, if you want to play in the mud, there's a chance to do that right now, as RaceBot TV is also having its Dirt Night coverage. Right now, Ronnie Cheneth is on the call with Cam Walsh right now in that broadcast booth. If you want to tune into that, just click on the iRacing tab of the YouTube channel, switch over to that stream, or why not keep both of them open and try and keep your head on a swivel, because sometimes double screen, or double picture I should say, really interesting to watch as you now watch MSP Phoenix Racing try and battle for his position. Jan-Erik Hofurf right again, trying to still battle these MSP Phoenix cars. They just love to be on camera, it seems, with position battles.
They love to be in position battle for sure, and they also have two prototypes that they will have to kind of let them go by as the number 6, and also the number 33, the overall leader, also trying to go by and perhaps make it 3 wide coming here into, but yeah, no, you know, every time you see 3 wide, yes, it is down the Mulsanne straight, it is 3 wide, but it's sometimes it can be just a little bit hairy.
Could be a little hairy, and I think everyone's staying conservative with being single file, obviously, and try and wind things up again. Just those kind of things you have to pay attention to in an endurance race, of course, with multi-class racing, and making sure you don't run each other over. That is for sure, as you see them running down the Mulsanne straight once again, this time towards the Michelin chicane. We are not in the middle of Detroit, unfortunately. Yeah, not unfortunately. So, again, trying to close this up and keep this conservative whilst trying to maintain the fuel, obviously, as they zoom around that chicane.
As they go down the chicane for sure now, coming here into the last portion of the Mulsanne straight as the number 63 still ahead of the 83. I think the number 83, I don't think they are trying to save fuel here, trying to see when was the last time that, well, the number 83 just came 1 lap after the number 63, so really interesting how this battle has been developing so far, as the number 63 has been making positions here and there, and well, right now the number 13, pretty good day for them, I have to say.
Pretty good day for sure, as right now you see that 83, a cockpit view, closing up pretty good with the toe, and as you see, again, I brought up the possibility of fuel saving. That was something we've seen with the battle for the GTE lead a while back, where they go about even midway down the straightaway. I think that time, just lightly tapping the gas pedal, going off from full throttle, going to maybe 80% throttle to match things up. So maybe thinking of every little drop counting here, because we've seen endurance races in the past, of course, where drivers have tried to cut down to one less pit stop and they end up winning the race. Speaking of pit stops, by the way, Bunch of Core Motorsports has brought themselves in on their different strategy with those kind of mindset and really trying to get himself to pit road speed. But still, that battle is on your screen.
Yeah, definitely number 55 coming into the pit, trying to eat every last single inch that he can, but doing 50 laps. So this is one of the few GTE cars that are able to go 50 laps in their stints, and it's really interesting to see that both Fords and Ferraris are able to go 50 laps as the number 55 also goes for the driver change. Alexander Voss now in the number 55.
Yep, going for the driver change after Niels Koch was in the car since lap 61, as Lauren Henrik was in the car from the start all the way to lap 59, of course. So this is just their third swap of the race, as currently he's up in the lead for the time being. That could change depending on how things go, and that is because Pure Racing Team GTA Blue is going to zoom right on by them back for the lead, as Patrick Pickler, who was behind the car when they came across the checkered flag for the VRS GT iRacing Series for the red team for the GT3s earlier on. He's now back in the lead, and of course, very strong driver and already having a good run for this season.
Having a good run, but now the number 55 slot right in front of the number 69, and this is a battle for position here in the GTE class. So the number 69 leading this race for the most part, now running in P2, but not really that far behind the number 71, as the gap right now is just 8.8 seconds from P2 to P1, but right now the number 69 and the number 55 in battle.
In battle, as that's the Thrustmaster Movano Racing 69 for the GTEs. That car was at one point leading with Arthur Wilhock behind the wheel. They made a driver change a few laps ago when they finally brought it in on lap 100 even, as that is Luke von Schurek behind the wheel of the 55. You see right now trying to close up the gap. Going to be a bit of a challenge. I don't think he got tires on that pit stop, of course, so they are about dead even in terms of the way they have the tires lined up, as a couple more cars coming in. It's to the point where you may as well have a fixed camera on the pit stops right now, because it's like a car is coming in with a different strategy every single lap when they aren't destroying cones or trying to save fuel using the toe of the rival cars.
Well, and that is pretty much what's happening for all these cars with all these different strategies. But one thing we also have to note on the GTEs, unlike the prototype class where they take fuel and tires separately, in the GTE class, fuel and tires happen at the same time. So there's really no point in trying to go for double or triple stint on the tires in the GTE class. So what makes the difference is every time you try to do a driver swap.
Good time to note that up. Thank you very much for the good information, as right now things continue to develop on your scenes. More of the battles on your screen. That's the 83 and the 63 on your screen once again. Shihina Mashimi Sim Racing with Philippe Matrovsky behind the wheel. Jan Eric Hoffer, pardon me, is behind the wheel of the 83, obviously still. And still, this has stayed about even, just about. It has gone to, at some points, about a second gap. Still staying about even. That's at about the same pace as that position battle that we've shown between Thrustmaster Movano Racing GTE and Hocheveld team entry, as they still stay behind each other. About 0.3 of a second for that battle for second spot in the overall class. So just everyone being patient, of course, because you don't want to end up being the driver who tries to go and get every single position, then runs out of fuel somewhere down a straightaway, a lap short, for example, go for their scheduled pit stop because they wanted to be aggressive and try and go forward. Again, we've talked about this a couple times, being patient, being calm, and trying to, of course, keep the fitness part of it together, because that's something that might be on the mindsets as this continues to click towards the 8 p.m. Eastern time mark.
And you know, that is one of the things here that you really have to keep in mind now, as most of these drivers, you know, they have been here now for a considerable amount of time, and now fatigue may start creeping in on some of these drivers. So now you gotta start thinking about putting some fresh drivers, giving some rest to some other drivers. And I have to say, last time I did a race here at Le Mans, it was a really hard race because for my team, perhaps I will say I was the slowest driver per se, but trying to keep that car in one piece, trying to make sure that during the night part, you know, trying to keep that car clean, trying to make sure that I wasn't involved in any incidents. I'll say that is one of the hardest parts in here, because while your faster teammates, you know, they have done all the work that they could, you coming in, perhaps not having the same pace as your faster teammates, but trying to keep that car clean. So once they come back, having that car still in one piece and being able to run for a good finishing position, well, I'll say that is really hard.
Definitely is really hard for sure, especially keep it consistent, keep on, make sure you don't fall asleep behind the wheel or have an arm cramp and end up having your car swing to the right when your arm starts to cramp up to the point where you can't move it. Right now, somebody that's been trying to move through the field after struggles with the grid, with the pace lap, the grid formation lap incident, Ava Simsport, they've been recovering. They've been up and down in the top 10, back out of the top 10. Now they're battling for 13th spot with that car, that one of the cars who went in before a few laps ago, and Team GT Free M, and trying to close on in with the toe, of course, Daniel Piazza in that Italian machine with Ava Simsport right on the heels with the pink helmet through the Porsche curbs, and trying to keep this up as a couple of our drivers, of course, are coming in. But what else is new? Of course, this is becoming a close battle, because I think there's a lot of traffic in front of them. Yes, there is, and it's in a very awkward spot.
Yeah, that is one place that you don't want the Gem Racing team, you know, right there. Not the place that if you are in a prototype, one of the last places that you will want to catch a slower car, but they were able to clear it, no problem at all. So now the number 21 and the number 10 coming down the 4 chicanes to start another lap.
Yes, long ways to go here in this event, as one driver is in the pits. Of course, not notable with that one, but of course, still gotta keep eye on that, because every strategy has completely jumbled up at this point as the race has gone on, specifically as everyone continues to dial on up. But of course, it has been a long day so far. We are past 8 p.m. Eastern time, right at just about the 17 hours to go mark. Why don't we go to Race Spot Fan Immersion, as this has been some intense racing at times and some good strategy. It is the point where it is very clean, very calm racing. We'll be right back here on Race Spot TV for more coverage of the Neo Endurance Series. And welcome back, everyone, to our coverage of the Neo Endurance Series 24 Hours at Le Mans, as it is entering what is now been a very long race. Hour 7 ticking on and entering hour number 8 here on Race Spot TV. And what has been some good coverage. I'm Justin Prince. Alongside me in the broadcast booth is Alvin Neves. Hugo Ruiz has been helping us in the backdrop. We would not be able to keep things going without you. Of course, you're also helped along with N. Warner Design and our overlay designs, overlay animation by Simon Grossman and Nick Thiessen, keeping up with the live timing and scoring. That live timing and scoring can be kept track at live.neo-endurance.com. It has been a very long one so far, obviously, and a very calm one, but a lot of action. Let's take a look at your top 8 for each class, entering the 1 hour to go mark before we switch things on for part number 3. Thrustmaster Bravado Racing is in the lead still by a minute. More than a full-on minute, in fact, over Pure Racing Team LMP. As Thrustmaster Bravado Racing, their other entry with the number 34 is a minute and 12 seconds back. In the top 4, Team Camara is still charging their way up into the top 4, with Radicals Online coming in during that Race Spot TV fan immersion for their pit stop. They are in 5th. Thierry Martin Esports from France, they are in 6th on their home turf, with Virtual Motorsport and MSP Phoenix Racing rounding out the top 8. And of course, that quick position change going on in the backdrop of your screen for 13th spot. For the GTEs, it is Pure Racing Team GTE up at the front. They're up by 7 seconds right now over Thrustmaster Bravado Racing GTE, who are up in the front for much of the early hours of this one, before the fuel saving in the position changes. Here on Race Spot TV, 3rd spot, Points Valcor Motorsports and VRS Cordano Sim Sport. Their 81 machine entry is in 4th. Vendaval Sim Racing, their GTE entry is still about just under a minute back in 5th. 6th, VRS Cordana Simsport with their 88 entry. Torque Freak Racing Gym Racing Team has quietly moved themselves to 8th spot in this one. So a lot of time to go in what is a very historical track. A lot of history throughout the racing history throughout the world. A long time, of course. You used to, of course, be able to sprint from the side of the wall to your cars for the start here at one point. As you've seen some of the commercials helping point that out for iRacing with Will Vincent. But a very historical track. What are your favorite parts of this track here, Elvin, as we enter our 8th hour of coverage?
Well, you know, this track has so many portions that you could point out, and, you know, each of them has their unique things that kind of make them kind of special. But to me, it has to be the whole Mulsanne straight. Yes, you can say it has been neutered from what it was in previous times. It was one whole straight, and now it has 2 chicanes right in the middle, but it kind of gives it a new attitude. It still retains that top speed element of this track, and that is one of the great things about this track. You know, once you get down that route and you get down that Mulsanne straight, you know, it's pretty much all about the top speed.
All about the top speed for sure. In this position battle we've been keeping track of for a while now, about 30 minutes give or take. And actually around this battle with Thierry Martin Esports, they keep on getting involved with battles, so to speak, in the past 30 minutes is what I should say. At one point, it was Team Camara they were battling with. Now it's Radicals Online, and he's getting a very strong run here, in fact, through the tight chicane, through the PlayStation chicane.
Now coming down here, the first chicane, and Thierry Martin Esports are trying to close the gap on the number 8 Radicals Online with Kazuki Omishima in front there for what is P number 5, but Thierry Martin Esports with Alvaro Ramiro closing that gap now less than 2/10 of a second. Let's see, keeps a peak to the left side, so going side by side into the Michelin chicane. You're really close, and they're still battling, and well, Kazuki Omishima really forced wide and really had to take evasive action, but no problem as Thierry Martin Esports now in P number 5.
This, I think, they've been wanting to get by to get themselves in the top 5 for a while now, as they zoom by the Radicals Online machine and try and separate this gap. Still about even, of course, down the straightaway with the toe, but it's going to be basically how you take the exit after the evasive action. Late braking from Radicals Online, not wanting to give away that spot, but can't get up to the doorstep as Theo Martin Esports from France moves themselves and locks themselves for the time being into the top 5 here for position. And still, you got to think about this too. MSP Phoenix Racing, they have been, in all counts, been in battles. Their number 7 position prototype, I should say, pardon me, the number 38, Patrick Schneider behind the wheel of that. He's starting to close on into these cars we see on your screen. Or from, I should say, Theo Martin is from Spain. Pardon me, from reading off from one of the streams I was following off. A couple different team streams I was following along with earlier on, mixing it up with SimOK Racing. Apologies for that to that team.
Well, you know, things happen. That's one of the things that you learn as you go through here. But anyways, you know, it is one of those good things that we see things from all over the world competing here. We got drivers from Germany, we got drivers from France, Italy, Spain, UK. We also have drivers all the way from Japan, Australia, and well, let's not forget, if we come here to the Americas, we got the US, we got Canada, we got even Mexico and Brazil being represented in this race as well.
Yeah, a lot of different countries involved, and shows just the amount of diversity you can have with a community like iRacing to connect all those sim racing enthusiasts from different areas as well as professionals up in different communities. Now we have a battle for 9th spot. Sim RCDE. They've also been having some strong runs. SRN Motorsports with Jason Gerard right on the back doorstep right now is about a half second back and moving their way towards Indianapolis, and trying to close on in to gain one more spot, at least on the track right now. As you see, staying about the same distance, zooming their way down the straight.
Coming down here now, under heavy braking here at Indianapolis, Jason Gerard keeping a close eye there on the number 77. So far so good for them. Although the number 77, they will have to come into the pits in around 2, 3 more laps. Card number 75, Jason Gerard in the SRM Motorsports. They just came into the pits around 4 laps ago, so this is just pretty much another stint that they are going on.
Speaking of stints, we got a pit stop now coming in for the leader of the prototype, your overall leader, in fact. Tomasello Carla is now in for the Thrustmaster Movado Racing Squad and trying to get himself into the pits. Of course, one of the first stalls here. Pit delta's about a minute, give or take, just a couple seconds over that minute mark. We'll see what they decide to do here. He has been in the car since lap 79. They're going to bring Frederick Evers back into the machine, who had the second stint for the race. He ran from laps 53 all the way to 78. And of course, was talked to before here on the RaceSpot TV broadcast. He's going to come back on in to that machine.
Coming into the number 33, Frederick Evers. So now the driver swap now happening. Now, will be really interesting trying to follow here the number 7, because from what it looks at, from the looks of it, they may be able to leapfrog the number 33 at the end of this pit stop. So now the number 7, after a long battle, now leading overall for this race. So it's been a long time. So now the number 7 leading, although they still have to come into the pits, but this should pretty much tell us what is the strategy for the number 7.
It definitely does right now, zooming across the racetrack, obviously, and trying to spread things out. Last time coming in around lap 101, around that range, give or take around that point. So he still is a nearby where he needs to come in for fuel eventually. Last time by running about a 3 minute 32 seconds lap time. Second is now Frederick Evers right now. Currently a bit far back, about 12.7 seconds is the gap. Make that 12.8 down as they move their way down the straightaways and try and zoom their way. Of course, he has a little bit of teammate help for at least the time being, of course. About split strategy, a staggered strategy, about a lap between these two cars, the 33 and the 34. Maxime Brennett might also have a driver swap coming up, of course, as they've been near synced up in terms of their strategies, of course, as teammates.
have been sicked up for sure, but now that's it. Like, well, it may seem like it is a battle for position here. It shouldn't be really that much. I think I should expect the number 34 to overtake the number 33 here. No pressure at all, and it kind of seems like, yep, there's a drop for position between the 34 and the 33.
Yep, trying to help each other up and trying to move in front to maybe use that pole to save a little bit more time with fuel. Pit stop in, by the way, the number 3 we were talking about, Tio Martin Motorsports. They have brought themselves into the pits for the prototypes as Alvaro Romero's in. Meanwhile, position battle now for 11th spot for the GTEs as Team Heuchenfeld is trying to hold on with Pure Racing Team GTE right on the behind them. Again, another example of a car about a half second back that is just staying patient, really. Not really pushing the issue for the position and just maybe using that toe again to help themselves out for the later hours of the race.
It kind of seems like that as right now Dennis Grabowski in the Pure Racing Team Red in the number 72 just staying behind, trying to keep close to the number 78 of Team Heuchenfeld. I think the number 72, they're just like you just pointed out, you know, trying to stay calm, save fuel. There's no need to push for position right now. The race will come to them as things go. It seems to be just a little bit of damage on the front left of the number 72, but it kind of seems like nothing that they cannot deal with.
Might have been something from the Ford chicanes, as that's where a lot of damage has developed here on this track. By the way, some of the prototypes coming out of the pits, MSP Phoenix, Symbol K Esport, a part of those drivers coming in is Evolution Racing into the pits right now, as you see that Symbol K Esport machine in 8th spot. This might have a few more drivers join them in. Gonna watch maybe the Thrustmaster Movano 34 if he decides to go in out of turn number 30. As you see the battle still on your screen for 2nd spot overall. That Thrustmaster 34 is in. That Thrustmaster Movano GTE teammate still trying to hold on to 2nd as this is starting to develop the Heuchenfeld Core Motorsports 55. As this is down to about 0.4 of a second as they work their way towards the Porsche chicanes. Or Porsche curves, pardon me. Reading my track map the wrong way from exhaustion.
Yeah, well, sometimes that happens. Even the drivers may be exhausted, but we here on the commentary booth, well, you know, it's been a long day as well for most of us, so sometimes we just need a little bit of rest. But fortunately, we still got around 45 minutes here before we go into part 3. But before that, we got a battle here, 69 and 55 into the Porsche curves. The number 55 trying to keep it close as they can. Number 69 trying to get a good exit here there out of the Porsche curves. It looks like for now, the number 69 is safe.
Right now, safe for the time being, and of course, the Heuchenfeld Core Motorsports machine here while falling on behind them through the Ford chicanes, bouncing up and down, and a little bit sand kicking up. We've seen a little sand kicking up for sure out of the Mulsanne quarter, turn 16, 17, of course, on this track. Which leads us a little point I want to mention, of course, with this, as this battle continues to go on, the realism in terms of the visual graphics. A lot of discussion might be starting a little bit of a boiling pot, of course, for discussion to some fans, but of course, I'm going to bring up this short story with this involving this, where some of the broadcasts are doing them not on Raceball TV, is with the National Basketball League of Canada, and yesterday evening, while with that, I apologize for bringing up the story if this is out of call line here. I had one of the team photographers come up to me who is following on with these broadcasts and says, I thought this was a real broadcast in terms of the racing we see with iRacing and Racebot TV. Said he couldn't notice with 15 seconds for the difference between real life and what is iRacing, which of course is a simulator, racing simulator with that. So just shows the amount of realism you have with a service like iRacing.
Well, you know, that also shows how much we have evolved as sim racing from its beginnings. I do remember I started doing sim racing all the way back to maybe 2003, 2004, when I was able to finally get into sim racing full time. And I gotta say, you know, things have advanced so far to the point that now Perhaps computer parts they are easier to obtain from what they used to be. Computers are easier to build right now. Most of the sim racing hardware now it's more affordable than what they used to be back in the day. Yes, there is this high-end sim racing equipment that most of these drivers have, but you know, trying to get in, it's a lot easier than what it used to be back in the day. So that being said, the level of realism that most of these companies, especially here iRacing, what they have been able to accomplish is nothing short of fantastic for sure.
Nothing short of fantastic, and nothing short of near fantastic. Cointrevincourt Motorsports almost did a bonsai move, but still being patient after the late braking through the Mulsanne corner, and still keeping up with the car in front of him from Dutch-Raster Movano Racing. So this has still been very close. Again, fuel strategy has to come into play with something like this, keeping exactly even with the speeds, in fact, a little bit slower, in fact, the Hoyt-Cheval machine as they approach Indianapolis, as there is still a long ways to go. About 40 minutes to go here in this part. 16 hours, 42 minutes, 55 seconds, as Hoyt-Cheval says, hello camera, I want to be in your face.
Oh, camera, I want to be in your face for sure, but one battle here that we were following, and well, one car that comes into the pits is the number 77, CMRC.de Crimson, with Gianni Vecchio coming into the pit, so should expect a full service here, fuel and tires. Now the question is, I don't think they will be changing drivers anytime here soon as well, so Gianni Vecchio is still in that number 77, but still keeping an eye here on the number 69 and the number 55 coming into the Porsche curves.
You're seeing those on your screen still. Still, you got to remember the core team comes in about 10 minutes later, give or take, compared to many of the GTEs, as that Ferrari tries to move into second spot. Of course, it's been Patrick Pickler who has just absolutely pulled away from these guys, mind you, too. Still about 4.6 seconds ahead of this battle for second. It's something he might want to see continue to develop to make sure he continue to spread this out and keep the amount of time he has and then some. But still, might not be his main focus, obviously.
Well, here's something interesting. Last time around, Patrick Pichler in the number 71, he ran at 350.2, and both the 69 and the number 55, they both ran at 349.4, 349.5 respectively. So I think there may be something going with the number 69 and 55. They may have decided not to battle this, as you know, they just keep this pace going, and they will be able to catch the number 71. Although for the number 69 and the number 71, if not this lap, next lap around, they will be coming into the pits.
While this is all going on, we're going to take a split second. Why don't we try and put a spotlight on somebody we have not talked about much for a while, the SRN Motorsport 74, who has had a fair adventure throughout today. Had to get some repairs at one point, and is still in 25th spot for the class. Yes, and just shows the spirit this team has. They're 2 laps behind the rest of the field, and I mean everybody else on the track, but just shows the amount of team spirit and amount of effort to say, if there's a mistake that happens that brings an our car out, we can move up the field, leapfrog, and as well say we finished 24 hours of this event.
I think that is more what this is all about. It is not really about getting points or getting a good finishing position. It's pretty much the pride of saying we were able to run all the way to 24 hours, no matter the circumstances, no matter what happened. We just stayed there, we battled, and we made it.
Yep, and they are trying to make it Scott McGarvey behind the wheel of that. Only cars with DNFs right now is Matt Farrell currently, who was in the Blue Flag Racing machine, pardon me. The 57 also behind the garage area, the 47 blew an engine, of course, in the first part of the race, and the 70 also behind the garage area. Those drivers, of course, all your only DNFs for the entire event today. Okay, so just shows the amount of clean racing we have had all night long to make sure you get to the finish and make it those full 24 hours, as you said.
Yeah, it certainly is, and you know, for these races, usually the attrition rate, it is a lot lower than what it used to be back in the day, because perhaps the damage model in terms of how it wasn't really that friendly once you got damaged. But nowadays things have changed for the better, and just because you got damaged doesn't mean that the race is over at all. You know, you can still come into the pits and repair most of it and still get a good car even after some significant damage.
Meanwhile, we got another battle still on your screen. That's that battle we became keeping track of, and it stayed exactly the way it's been, really. Still about 3/10 back is Hoincheveld Core Motorsports. It's still trying to keep in the slipstream and keep themselves drafting together. They do have lap traffic of their own class to deal with in the German Sim Racing DE car right up in front of them. Well, that's going to be probably about a half lap until they reach that, as they keep themselves calm. And then they got a train of cars that are battling for 31st and 32nd overall on the track with the Pure Racing Team GTE Blue car. The leader, of course, for the class right up in front. But we got a car coming in the pits. That was one of the cars we were just talking about, in fact, as Thrustmaster Movano Racing brings it on in, moves himself out of second, and this is one of the first pit stops for this cycle, as Mitchell de Jong will come in now for VRS Kodana Sim Sport with the 81 entry for that team. So they are starting to come on in now. The window is starting to open with the 16 hours and 37 minutes to go mark.
Yeah, for the 69 and the number 81 now coming into the pits just after 14 laps. Keep an eye on the number 52, as they are also into 14 laps, and it looks like they will be able to, if my numbers are correctly, they're coming into the pits as well.
Yep, they are coming in with one of the prototypes. In fact, Vendaval Sim Racing White, one of those drivers coming out from 5th spot on the racetrack. We'll see who else follows them on in as they zoom out by the pit entry. Of course, having to go through turn number 30, just before turn number 30, pardon me, and come across a section of where you do have one of the other configurations of Le Mans racing circuit course. As right now you see one of those entries coming out with a driver swap with a notable name in Martini Petola. My goodness, that's a name to swallow up, but still a fairly notable name, as mentioned during the first hours of the broadcast.
Oh yeah, the number 81 with a driver swap. Mitchell de Jong coming out, and now Marty Piatila in the number 81 for the next stint, and perhaps a couple more stints. And you know, this is one of the teams in here, the number 81, pretty much one hand on the trophy. They just need to make sure that they keep the car clean. They are not involved in any silly incidents, and pretty much they will be champions.
Yep, but there's still a long ways to go, of course, as everyone tries to get their strategies together. You see side-by-side action. I believe that's one of the lap cars we're having to crash by. Yeah, that was the mentioned car, the SRN Motorsports driver, who is currently in 24th spot over on the racetrack now for his class, as he tries to keep on to that set spot, obviously. Still has to make sure he gets to the finish line to do exactly that. Of course, a couple other drivers coming into the pits too, and you see some of them. Pure Racing Team LMP, that is one of the prototypes. Maximilian Beneke, when we come out of the stalls, 31 seconds is his pit stall lap time. And one of the other drivers coming, or a couple other drivers are pulling in right on down the pit entry right now, I believe.
Coming into the pits, a couple more cars, but also try to point out Maximilian Beneke in the number 7, another 31 seconds. So that means he is really happy with the tires as they are running right now. So he is on a triple stint. So really interesting, the strategy that the number 7 is employing right now to close the gap on the number 33.
Would that be something you would want to do, a triple stint like this for tires, because it does risk losing some time in terms of the lap times you have, and something that's pretty rare for the roadside too. Like, I've seen this happen still though. If you reach 0% on the tires, which I don't know if you can reach with that still with that amount of stints, you can still blow up the tires somehow.
There is that possibility, but if there is a track that you can possibly do double or triple stint. It is this track. This track, it is not really that hard on tires, so for the teams in the prototype class, there is that possibility that you may try to stretch the strategy by not putting tires. On the GTE, well, since before it used to be that you can do fuel and tires separate, so there was also some strategy there involved. Nowadays, it's pretty much fuel and tires at the same time, so the strategy for the GTE class that's pretty much thrown out of the window.
Yeah, right now, meanwhile, the GTE leader at one point, now not in the lead anymore. Of course, Pure Racing Team GTE is now in the pit stalls, coming in as well. German Sim Racing along with him. They were around the same spot on the racetrack with lap traffic. Let's see if these guys come on in. Nope, they are, of course, the ones who stayed out. Went in the previous lap. Will they have enough time to close on up? As right now, we'll see, zooming on by down the pit lane, passing one by the Sim Racing, Sim RCDE machines as they zoom by the pit exit. Passed by one of them that enter, but still, Patrick Pickler is still out in front of these two cars we see on screen.
Well, and we also have the number 38 coming into the pits, but it was after a big-time incident coming into the Porsche curves. It was all by themselves. They lost that rear end, and well, trying to rescue it, well, they couldn't do that. Patrick Snyder right there, he couldn't do really that much, and well, into a wall. So now coming into the pits with massive damage.
Let's take a look at that replay right now. Good catch on this, Alvin, for sure. As you see, trying to negotiate with the lap car, then entering the Porsche curves. We've seen this once before. Little too much, hooking towards the right. Bam! All on that right side. I wonder how that's going to affect that car. I wouldn't be surprised if they decide to get any optional repairs they can here right now.
Yeah, definitely really unfortunate there for the number 38. They were having a good race there, but now, well, this is really gonna affect their race there as well. And this is one of the things. This is one of the things about this race. You know, it is 24 hours, and just because you are in a comfortable position, that doesn't really mean anything. You have to keep the concentration at all times. You have to be really sharp. And well, unfortunately for the number 38, this will be a very lengthy pit stop.
Very lengthy indeed. That is going to be a mistake. That's going to cost him a fair amount of time. That is for sure. Going to exit the pits, in fact, just as we finish up that frame. Now we show that battle for 13th spot again. This Gianni Vecchio, I should say, has been really involved in a fair amount of battles across the racetrack today, obviously. We're trying to hold on position. And with there being about 30 minutes to go here in our second segment, 31 minutes, I should say, let me ask you this, Alvin. Who would you have really on your team for the way the driving's gone in terms of gold star, silver star, bronze star for these for a 24-hour race like this? Would you have a guy like Vecchio on here who has been an absolute trooper for sure with his team?
Well, you know, you always have to have those drivers that are really all fast, you know, that they can go flat out from the top of the green flag, but also on a race like this, you also need those drivers that perhaps they may not be as fast as your star drivers in the team, but those, you know, drivers that you can give them that you can give them the reins of the car and they can keep it clean. And yeah, definitely Gianni Vecchio, I think that is one of those drivers that I will definitely have in my lineup. He's been doing a great job so far here in the number 77, keeping the car clean whenever he's been involved in a battle, trying to do the best he can, not being involved in any silly incidents. So, you know, yeah, Gianni Vecchio definitely doing a good job here in the number 77 for sure.
Reason why you've seen the position change for a split second as they went down the front stretch, Pure Racing Team GTE's red entry just came in the pits, as well as a few of the GT, as well as the prototype, pardon me. Autobahn Motorsports, Virtual Motorsport down there. MSP Phoenix Racing's 85 GTE also involved. Coming down, Logical Vortex Sim Racing's GTE is also coming down the pit entry, as we have a few different drivers deciding to come on in and trying to get some things together. You see Autobahn Motorsports making a few adjustments there. They have Jason DeVries now behind the machine on that one, coming out of the pits now. and trying to go out in front of one of those MSP Phoenix cars, and continues to show the diversity with the pits and strategies, of course, that we have discussed multiple times on the racetrack, obviously. Of course, right now in the lead for the GTEs is the 55. Alexander Volb right now is up in the lead as he is trying to be on that alternate strategy we keep on talking about with the cliches, with the hashtag strategy. Of course, comes in a couple laps later than the rest of the field and trying to keep onto that spot. He's got about a 57-second cushion over the second place car, the number 71, Patrick Pickler right now. So he does have some space to work with, but it's still, you got to remember the pit delta is give or take about, with the GTEs today, about 50 seconds-ish today, as one of the logical Vortex Sim Racing prototypes comes in, by the way.
Oh, you know, and that is one of the things that really defines this race, the strategy, because not everybody is on the same strategy. So in a way, while you are racing the cars on the track, you are also racing the clock with your own strategy to see what is the optimal way of trying to do the most amount of laps possible. And this is something that we're gonna see here all race long. Right now we are almost 1/3 distance in this race, and we really have no idea which is the best strategy. So this is something that we just gonna keep, that we will have to keep an eye pretty much all night long. And once we come back with perhaps 2 hours to go, then we will know what was the best strategy.
I totally agree with you. It's way too early to call on what's the best strategy, what's the worst strategy, what we could have done better, what we couldn't have done better, or what we could have adjusted. It's still a long ways to go with that. And of course, you got to remember too, there's still a lot of drivers, big name drivers that I'm noticing here on the list that have not made stints yet for right now. I'm peeling through my pamphlet with that part in me right now, with some of these drivers that have a chance, of course, to substitute in. Like right now, Ronaldo Liena is one of the drivers that stands out to me. You have Patrick Wolf, who can jump back into a car anytime for Pure Racing, obviously, that had a good run. Fabrice Cornelius is somebody that can jump into a car anytime for Vendaval, for example. So there is a lot of big names still that are resting up and being saved for that later half of the race.
Yeah, and for many of these teams now it really becomes the part of when do you bring the drivers in. So, and for many of these teams, this is the other part of the strategy that they need to be concerned about. When to bring the drivers and how much time are you going to leave them per stint, because sometimes you want your, of course you want your fast drivers to be in there the most time, but also you have to keep into consideration that you don't want to use your fast drivers way too much, because there's also a limit here that each team can have per driver, and well, that limit is that the drivers cannot, one driver cannot drive more than 70% of the total distance. So that is also part of the strategy in here, and something that all the teams had to keep an eye on. Well, speaking of strategy, the number 88 into the pits.
Number 88 coming in, that's one of the VRS machines, the VRS Cadena SimSport. Jerry Bortola will now come in his GTE. See if there's a driver swap. No, there is not. Yes, there is. Pardon me, as you see the nice Ferris wheel. Jorn Jens will now come into the 88 machine, as now they try and stick into the top 5 for the class for them, as right now they have a fairly sizable gap right now in the 52, who is currently in the 6th spot.
Yeah, it's on the 6th spot right now, so now got fuel and tires, so it shouldn't be that much problem. The 88 with Jorn Jensen coming out of the pits right now, and just behind them, coming into the pits or out of the pits, Dino Topic. Well, he's coming into the pits in the 49 Motorsports.
Coming into the pits, as that is one team we've talked about a few different times on this broadcast tonight. As you see right now, all the drivers really trying to shake things up. There is still a long ways to go in this event. of course, so there is still a lot that can happen. Of course, right now, what team, in your opinion, has been the one that's been impressing you the most during these runs tonight?
I have to say, if there is a, there's been so many teams in here that have been having some great races in here today, and I have to say, in terms of teams that have really impressed me so far, Thrustmaster Movano, they have been during the beginning of the race, they pretty much had a stranglehold on what was the lead of each of the classes, but now things are really starting to mix up in both prototype and the GTE. So now Pure Racing team coming back into the race here, not only in the prototype but also in the GTE class. But another team that we should keep an eye on the GTE class as well is that Hoisinville Core Motorsports. They are on a different strategy than Pure Racing team and Thrustmaster Movano, and that is something that definitely we should keep an eye on. And one thing that we should never discard at any time, VRS Columbus Sensport. They are running in P4 right now, and with Marty Piatila, yes, they are just 12 seconds behind the number 69 and 17 seconds behind the number 71, but still plenty of racing to go.
Plenty of racing to go as you see your top three again on the side of your screen for each class. Some sizable gaps, but again, you got to think about strategy. And make sure you keep that in your minds for sure. As one more thing, of course, to keep in mind, of course, as you said, you got to finish in the top 12 in the points to make sure you're locked in for next season for the Neo Endurance Series. You see right now one of the drivers coming into the pits, but of course, the point standings right now, top 12 to clinch right now is for Pure Racing team, who has swept the season in victories coming into today. That is for the prototypes right now, as they are in second spot. The team that's in second in points, Thrustmaster Movano Racing, they are the ones in the lead after having 2 second places throughout the season. In the Grand Touring class with your GTEs as well. As you see the rest of your point standings going up here, you see VRS Cordana Sim Sport. That's the AT1 car we are referring to. Has won all but one event coming into today's 24-hour finale with double the points. 21 points was gained, of course, at Sebring for that first race. The rest of the wins, of course, at World America, Motegi, Nürburgring, as well as at Spa. They need to finish in the top 17, and for the 81, they are currently, of course, in the top 5. But again, as we talked about, all about finishing the 24 hours, having fun, and making sure you have a clean finish, and make sure you get all the way to the finish line. That is what the mindset is, of course, for a lot of these drivers. Still 21 minutes ago before we hand things off for part number 3.
It's Turtle, yes, and now we are almost coming into the end of part 2 of this stream, and I have to say the strategies in here, and I know strategies, but this is pretty much what this race is about, making your strategy and making it work. And it is really amazing that even with most of these teams, it kind of seems like for the prototype class, for example, everybody has the same car, so it should be all the same strategy. Well, in a way it is, but seeing the teams coming in at different stages of this race, coming into the pits to make their own strategy work, that kind of makes it really special, because even with the same car, you can see various ways of making things work. Same thing with the GTE class. We got the Ford, we got the Ferrari, and we also have different strategies.
That is for sure. Of course, a lot of people, sometimes they interchange a little bit between the Fords and Ferraris, and varies first as well for different classes as well with different makes, depending on how things are for the track. But of course, Le Mans does have a history, of course, of having those kind of manufacturer battles over the years, obviously. Having a good mixture of Fords and Ferraris in the field entry list today.
It's certainly, yes, but now trying to keep an eye here if there is a battle going here right now. So it kind of seems like all the battles have kind of subsided just for a little bit. So, you know, that also kind of start to give us a little bit of time to try to talk about different subjects here. So, trying to keep an eye here on a battle that may be going in here. It kind of seems like so far there are no battles for now.
No battles for now. A couple cars do come in, but that's, of course, the standard at this point of this time of the race, obviously. So, basically, of course, there's less than 20 minutes to go before we trade things off for our next part. The next part, of course, is going to be Jake Blackhall. Going to be on the lead call for that, along with Lorenzo Bonder. Hugo Ruiz will stick out for 4 more hours. Hopefully he has a ton of Red Bulls all set to go, because, of course, it has been a long day of broadcasting on Race Spot TV with many different series and many different events today. Of course, sometimes also having 2 consecutive events going on at the same time, including Dirt Night going on, as well as the V8 Super Trucks at one point during hours 4 and 5 for this event. So, just an absolutely busy slate. And Hugo, I hope you're ready for the next 4 hours after this one too.
Well, I gotta say, he is always ready. I can tell you that right now. You know, he's
Hold on.
Yep, go ahead.
Pardon me for almost cutting you off there. Logical Vortex Sim Racing GTE just went off the track and lost a bit of time going for a side swipe through Indianapolis, as this was an issue for them. Looking at the replay here on my end, as well as possibly on your screen here, he took about a full 20 seconds to get around spinning and bouncing off the wall into Indianapolis. My goodness.
Yeah, definitely the last place that you will want to get there along the Porsche curve. So now the number 54 with damage there in the front end. The car doesn't seem to be that stable at all. So I think they will be coming into the pits as soon as they can. So really unfortunate there for the number 54.
Very unfortunate. He is trying to hobble along the track. Definitely some issues with that car. Very damaged possibly, as this is going to be a bad time for that mistake. Not going to bring it in here right now, but you see that front end already bumped in. Damage on the right side a bit as well, of course, from bouncing it off the wall. How much will that affect the car for the rest of this night?
You know, it could be something that it seems like it was light right now, but once they come back into the pits, they will definitely have to do some repairs in there, because there's still more than 16 hours to go. And, you know, trying to run with a damaged car, that is something that you really don't want to do. But, you know, sometimes you just have to kind of, when those type of things happen, you just kind of have to deal with it. And, well, speaking of sometimes things that happen and kind of deal with it, number 81 had a little bit of a spin at the first chicane there at the Mulsanne straight, but, you know, nothing happened, just a solo spin, and they were able to continue.
Was just about to bring that up, just locked it up, and just went sideways and did a bit of a burnout, got it off the racing line, and then got it back on going. So bad luck for the 81. He's still in 4th spot though, and still about a favorable distance of 29 seconds. Now we have the battle you see of a quartet, I should say, a triplet battle, I should say. I don't even know what I'm trying to say anymore, with the exhaustion with some of the prototypes. As you see them on your screen, that is the Ava Simsport car trying to keep in front of Team GT3M. Right now, battling for spots, zooming on by on the outside line. Has to go back behind them though, as they go through the Porsche curves. Again, not a good spot to try and set up that kind of a pass. And that team still trying to keep it single file in what is now a 3-car grouping here with about 16 hours to go.
About 16 hours to go. This 3-car battle here for what is the number 12 in your prototype class between iRacing Sport, Team GT, and also Workiva. You know, these teams they have been through battles throughout this whole race all day long, and for now, iRacing Sport, you know, having a good race in here and team number 12. Despite that little damage that they had at the beginning of the race, and well, it seems like we may have another incident there at the second chicane with car number 94.
We'll see what's going on here with the car number 94, as this is another situation that is 49 motorsports. Oh my goodness, somebody crashed right on behind them. We'll see what happened. That's in the second chicane, as you brought up. That is the Michelin chicane we were referring to. Tried to take a wider entry, arc it on in, arced it a decent amount, but then hooked it to the right. I think he actually didn't turn enough. Did a full 360 to get back going. Went back onto the racetrack, and then somebody, I think, after he got back going out of the chicane, ended up turning straight left into the wall. Who is that there? My goodness. That is Paul Darling, who's had an adventure of a day, who is in 22nd spot. Adds more damage, damaging the wing, in fact, the left side of the wing. So that could have been even more scary for that.
Yeah, definitely what you don't want. They're really unfortunate, and well, that is the other thing of these 24 races that nobody really wants to see. You know, having a good race and then all of a sudden just one mistake, just one small incident can turn your whole race around.
One incident definitely can destroy your entire day, as you see the race boss sponsored machine trying to recover after that hit to the wall, after what was probably a fairly quicker exit than expected here, as Paul Darling and his team has had to have a lot of adversity to suffer through. Meanwhile, pit stops going on again. Radicals online back in. Kazuki Oshima is back in. He's been in the car since lap 102, and we'll see what they decide to do. Should keep him in the car here, and again, going to have his pit stop on the different strategy and try and set this on up. Scott McGarvey, meanwhile, is going to drive right on by him in one of the cars. In fact, they actually decided to do a driver swap midway through the stop. Paul Ulbrich is back into the machine here in this one, here in position number 4.
Paul Ulbrich coming now into the pits. So now, interesting as we end this. Paul Ulbrich for sure, fast driver here in this HPD. Now the question is, how many stints will he be able to do, as pretty much end on our closing at the end of hour number 8, and we go into hour number 9.
Very close to being into hour number 9. You can hear from our voices the exhaustion. Gotta imagine, of course, what's going on for the drivers' heads here in this one. It's going to be a lot of coffee brewing for the next segment, that's for sure.
A lot of coffee brewing for sure, Red Bull, and you know, anything that can keep these drivers awake. So anything that you can, and well, you also have to think with all the Red Bull and coffee. Well, you know, some of these drivers, they also gotta eat as well.
Gotta eat as well. Meanwhile, position battle again. Team GT Freon is now again still battling for this one. Still battling for 12 spots. Team Porsche 78 GTE entry, by the way, is also in as they zoom right on by that pit exit. As right now, Frederick Evers took a wide exit. He is right now leading with the prototypes. We are 12 minutes to go until we switch to part number 3 here on Race Spot TV. Still a whiles to go. And remember, it's going to be an interesting next segment again, where some of the strategies going to come a tiny bit clearer. Everyone's going to try and settle on into the rhythms, and everyone's going to see, maybe try and get themselves right to the finish line, make sure they have the cleanest runs possible right now, as Dino Piazza still runs in that 13th spot as they head down the straight once again with that speed.
Heading down the Molson straight one more time here, just right behind Ava Sinsport for P number 12. So the number 21 and Team GT3, you know, trying to do the best they can, you know, within what they have, and well, closing the gap just a little bit more there. I think they may have a run here coming into the second chicane.
Yep, that is for sure. Real quickly before we hand it off to part number 3 of tonight's broadcast coverage of the NES, the Neo Endurance Series for the 24 Hours of Le Mans. Let's go to a Race Spot TV fan immersion one last time here for today's race, and we'll be right back in just a moment. And welcome back, everyone. And you might have just seen through the Dunlop curve and chicane, a wild ride for Team GT-HPD as they hooked to the right and got loose right in front of the Ava SimSport machine in your fan immersion. And so, near close call for them. Why don't we take a look at this one more time, because the gap started to spread out between the two cars. A little bit farther on back in the replay spool, that's for sure here. But you might have seen on the right upper hand where he hooked to the right and lost control. Just now he lost a fair amount of time, that's for sure, in that 21. And what he fallen back all the way to 13th once again after the spin.
Yeah, definitely a little bit of a scare right there for car number 21. Unfortunately, nothing major happened to them. They'll still be able to continue, although they definitely lost a little bit of time. But on a race like this, losing a little bit of time, it's a lot better than losing the race due to that not being able to race at all due to race ending damage.
Yep, that is for sure right now. You don't want to definitely have race ending damage after so many hours already. About 8 hours, still 16 hours, 4 minutes, and 45 seconds to go. If you're counting down the ticker to everyone's lives. So right now, this still is intense action. So before we hand this off for the switch, before we go and hand it off to our next group for tonight's broadcast of Jake Blackhall and Lorenzo Bonder, what are your final thoughts before we run down this field one more time?
Well, this definitely has been the race that we weren't really anticipating. Lots of different strategies going all over the board, and you know, the spirit of endurance racing just pretty much pictured in one race in here. You are involved in an incident, you don't give up. Just keep going, never give up. And for many of these teams now coming up with 1/3 of this race done, they still got 16 hours to go. Well, it doesn't seem like much. It's like, okay, so yeah, we got 8 hours to go, you know. Well, sorry, we did 8 hours, yes, but you still have 16. And, you know, this is still a long race.
Still a very long race indeed. Still drivers pitting on in, so before we run down the grid, I believe that was one of your top drivers, in fact, for the prototypes who turn it in. That is one of the Thrustmasters affiliated teams, pardon me, with the one with TNT Gold going into the pits. That is Frederick Evers coming on in the 33. So he pits out of the lead right before things get to switch on off here for Race Spot TV here for our coverage of hours 8 through number 12. No driver swap for him. He's going to stick into the car to the next hour. Maximilian Benecke, pardon me, is going to stay in the lead now after the pit stop there on the slightly different strategy. Maxime Brennett is going to possibly be right where he comes out nearby in his teammate. You see Frederick Evers now falling to second spot after the pit stops. The 34 machine is still a fairly decent distance behind of 8.4 seconds back in the third spot. Jack Keithley, he's been dialing in for Team Camaro Racing, and he is in the fourth spot right now. Still a fair distance back, a minute and 18 seconds, pardon me, back to the next car, as the starting scoring has to adjust with the pit stops, obviously, with Tio Martin Esports in the top 5. Radicals Online, Simo-K Esports, and Virtual Motorsports round out your top 8 for the prototypes right now. In your GTEs, they right now in these cars, it is Hoytfeld Core Motorsports up at the front still by 4.7 seconds. They might come in pretty soon. Your racing team GTE is behind them in the 71, and followed by Thrustmaster Novano Racing in this 69 machine. Behind them, the 81 machine of BRS Kodana SimSport. He's 29 seconds back at the moment. He's in the fourth spot right now, potentially locking himself in if he can keep this rate up for a points championship. Vendaval Sim Racing rounding up your top 5 right now with BRS Kodana SimSport and Torque Freak Racing. Jim Racing Team rounds out your top 8. Jim Racing Team has had a very quiet 4 hours to be in that top 8 right now here on Race Spot TV. So a lot to run down for the next hour, that is for sure, here on RaceSpot TV. Before we hand things off, we'd like to say thanks to the rest of our sponsors here for the Neo Endurance Series 24 Hours at Le Mans, the season finale. Double the points, double the fun, here for tonight's endurance race. Once again, I'm Justin Prince with Alvin Neves, and like to say thank you as well to Hugo Ruiz and the rest of our broadcast crew for being a part of today's coverage. TV cameras provided by Esteban Balago from TeamCams22.com. Be sure to tune in for that and try and get your cameras. And War Design is the official overlay designer for RaceSpot TV. Overlay animations provided by Simon Grossman. Nick Theisen is the one who provides our live timing and scoring. And if you want to keep track of the broadcast today, go to live.neo-endurance.com. With that, it's time for the switchover. It's going to be Jake Blackhall and Lorenzo Bonder taking on the coverage for part number 3 of tonight's action for the Neo Endurance Series 24 Hours at Le Mans. We'll be back with more coverage on RaceSpot TV, and we'll see you in just a few moments, live from Le Mans.